Audio, okej. Już.
O, jak mogłeś?
Możesz się cieszyć, bo ameba jest tańcząca, ale jest trochę jasny ekran, także mogę trochę
Nie
obniżyć.
tam.
Dobra, jest okej. Dobra.
A opowiesz coś o grze, czy tak o...
W sumie to nie wiem, bo to jest kolejne demo, także możesz płakać. I wygląda zarąbiście, w sensie dopracowane, nawet po preferencjach tutaj. Możesz zmienić czcionkę, rozmiar tekstu. Jest w ogóle opcja, że możesz zablurować niektóre konteksty.
Oczywiście, że tego nie klikamy.
Ale tutorial mamy załączony, bo nie wiem jak się gra.
No cóż.
Puf, co to jest? Quick Note Save,
O!
dobra. Myszka. Okej. Unblock. Aha, czyli nie będziemy mogli cofnąć jak zwykle. O, zarąbiście. Dobra, ale to coś co już wiem, dobra. Start. Have you ever played a visual novel? Yes, we did.
Jak to nie... A ta...
Chcesz czytać?
To jest bardzo podchwytliwe pytanie.
Nie, to jest tak albo nie.
W sensie, mogę,
No. W czym problem?
ale... Też jak ostatnio.
Co jak ostatnio?
No, połowa.
Możemy.
Oczywiście dla mnie ta mniejsza połowa.
Aha, rozumiem. Czyli ja narrator jak zwykle. Okej.
Oczywiście.
Co ja pytam w ogóle? Dobra.
No właśnie.
When the time to depart has come, I said goodbye to my father as though I were leaving for just a few hours. I smile as I wave my hand and watch as he returned the gesture with a smile of his own. He had repeated how proud he was of me, his voice sober despite the price, and then the cart started to move. Oh, good boy! It was the first time I had left someone without knowing for certain if I would ever see them again. Never before had it been so difficult to control my emotion, to restrain my tears in fear of them falling. Once my father's silhouette faded below the horizon, I began to sob like a toddler. My pride-saving grace was the solitude of the cart, as I was only the passengers present. What? Co to jest? Quick save? No, menu, dobra, chcę menu. Settings. Text speed trochę wolniej. Może na normalnie. Dobra. Żeby nie było, że ty się nagle wyciszasz, a ja o tym nie wiem.
Ja jestem cały czas.
Dobrze.
Ja się nigdy nie wyciszam tak o... Nie wiem o czym mówisz.
I grew up in Luella, a village located next to a massive lake, the name of which escapes me at the moment. It's actually because of its warm climate, far warmer than in other places that my the very first farmer in my family chose to settle there. Though technically it was nothing more than a matter of survival, the other parts of Arkan are just as so damn cold. Ooh, now, while I don't know about all the other continents in the world, I'm inclined to say that ours is the coldest out of all them. Jesteśmy nordyckimi wikingami, na pewno. You don't have to go higher than 2,000 meters above sea level to experience snow that never melts. The frigid winds of Arkan have a higher death toll than all the wars fought on the land, and the ground is almost perpetually covered in a sheet of frost. It had took only 2 days for me to start feeling the temperature difference I had so often heard about. I was used to only needing the water, wear a leather jacket and long sleeves to protect against the cold, and I quickly realized that it won't be enough this time around. I had laughed upon seeing my mother filling my bags with various furs, scarves, clothes, and other supplies I had never needed before. I knew I'd have to apologize in the first letter I'd write to her. If it weren't for her foresight, I wouldn't have survived. Her farewells had seemed endless. Oh shit, we're going to die. As I received the longest embrace in my whole experience, I had to promise her at least 6 times in the same sentence that I would take care of myself, and my cheek had turned crimson from all the kisses she gave me. Mother. Mother. I missed her already. Oh, Yoni. All throughout the trip, I could see several people get on and off the cart. Some of them were only going from one village to the next, and others, like I, were going all the way to the capital. It didn't do much to make the trip less boring, however. I wasn't sure if it was because of the cold or the fatigue from spending an entire day sitting in an uncomfortable cart, but apart from the small groups that had boarded the car together, not a single word was exchanged between the travelers. What the fuck? Introverts? The car lacked personal space, and thus my lonesomeness felt mismatched as bodies of strangers pressed against me. Okay, nie powiem tego żartu. The grim atmosphere of the ride had no respite from beginning to end, nor did the frigid cold ever keys its biting. To say the trip itself felt never ending would be an understatement. I closed my eyes. I had eventually come to the point of thinking about my departure. And what the heck? Nie przeczytałam. And everything that had happened during those past few days over and over again, so that I didn't have to look at the scenery. Bam! What's going on? You look fine. You look fine. I nie muszę ci zmieniać mienia. We look depressed.
To jest sus.
We look depressed.
To jest bardzo sus.
Yes. What's going on? Teraz ty.
Ja mam pytanie. Prośbę, proszę. Nie mów mi, że to jest yaoi, proszę.
Nie wiem, muszę to sprawdzić.
Jak mogłeś tego nie zrobić wcześniej?
A czemu nie? Masz złe wspomnienia?
Tak, mam złe wspomnienia, nie chcę do nich wracać. To jest jak Wietnam.
Nie, to jest wspaniałe wspomnienia, co ty gadasz? Czytaj. O. O. Okay. Czemu nie czytasz?
Bo czegoś szukałaś.
Nie, czytaj.
A. Well. You're dozing off, weren't you, young man? Ale let's go, jestem starym gościem, let's go. Raz w życiu.
Yes, I've been sleeping a little. Is everything alright? Why aren't we moving? I scanned the area thoughtfully in case the answer was right in front of me. The palpitation in my chest amplified as I caught a glimpse of something other than the endless snow encompassing the area. The parapet of the capital's walls were visible just over the horizon. I couldn't help but let out a triumphant scream, elated to see that my journey was coming to an end. Finally, can we get down now?
But yet, we have still a good 20 minutes to go before reaching the main entrance of the capital.
I took only a few seconds spoken with an amused tone for the old man to crush all my hopes and dreams. His own smile grew as he watched mine vanish from my face. I could hear a few of the other passengers giggle due to my crestfallen face. So, how come we aren't moving then? Remember your dignity, Rafe. Remember your dignity.
You're not looking in the right place, Eggman.
The old man points his finger toward the front of the cart, where everyone was gathered at the moment. Overcome with curiosity, and partially because I wanted to forget the fact that the entire convoy had just made fun of my enthusiasm, I joined them. Holy Oh. A shiver laid with disgust struck my body, and I clamped my hand over my mouth to stop myself from vomiting on the ground in front of me. It was not a rare sight to see those things roaming all over Arkham, but I had never seen so many of them all at once. Two of the walking corpses were blocking the way, forcing the coachman to viciously strike them with his whip. The most bizarre thing here was the fact that horses were more scared of the sound the whip made than of the monster standing in front of them. They should have panicked and trashed the cart in all directions while trying to escape, but instead they only moved when the Mustang cracked his whip. That's it.
What the hell do you think you're doing? That's not how you get those wrecks out of the way.
One of the passengers beside me, who seemed downright suicidal, all of a sudden got off the cart. He picked something off the ground and with all his might chucked it in square in the jaw of the closest corpse. The thing collapsed. Its jaw reparted from the bow, while the sound once trampled over something I couldn't see quite well as I tried to step back.
Huh. Right in your rotten face. Alright, now we just gonna run over them. Let's go.
The reckless man was welcomed by a standing ovation from the travelers when he climbed back into the cart. He received multiple pats on the back. Some travelers even promised to buy him a beer once they reached the capital, and others praised his performance. I was the only one who was still staring at the corpses, terrified at the notion that one of them might rise to its feet and launch another attack. When the cart tramped over them, as per the demands of the man who freed us, it quivered like a ship broaching a wave, resulting in immense amusement among my fellow travelers. I felt like an idiot for not comprehending the humor in the situation. I remained silent until the old man decided to engage me with him in conversation.
Are you alright, young man? You seem very pale.
Yeah, I'm fine. Those things just gave me the creeps, that's all. Ooh.
Oh!
A blue word appearing in the dialog box means that its definition is being added in the journal. When a purple word appearing, the definition is being updated in the journal. The dictionary contains everything Wave knows about, which means that the information in it is likely to change from section to section, depending on what he has learned so far. Don't be afraid to check out. You can also use the button G on your keyboard. Ah, shit.
You stolen!
Today.
Is it your first time seeing an undead wanderer?
No, of course not, but... Ooh. I find it hard to mock them like they do. I glance at them, I find that I might have been speaking a little too loud. I didn't want to have to face a whole convoy of angry men, all of whom were much older and experienced than I was. Thankfully, no one was paying attention to the conversation between the old man and me. The sound silence that had been looming on the trip so far had given way to a affordable atmosphere. Each man was telling the other how they would have handled the situation, provided, of course, had they been given enough time. Oh, trochę dużo do czytania. Przeczytasz?
Let's go. Among the dead that come back to life, the undead wanderers are the most pathetic-looking ones. Their appearance is similar to walking corpses. They are unable to think, and they retain no memories of their past lives. They are nothing but slowly decomposing vacant shells that attack any living thing that crosses their path. In the beginning, when their bodies haven't yet started to decay, they can move quite fast, and their strength is comparable to that of when they were still alive. The bite is lethal and leaves the victim in agonizing pain for several days. A cure has yet to be found.
No to wszystko co wiemy. Przykra wiadomość, być może to może być yaoi. Ale takie luźne. W sensie nie aż tak jak tamto było.
Mam nadzieję, że mnie nie oszukujesz tym razem.
A za niedługo też mogłabym zrobić przerwę. jakby co.
Przerwę?
Za niedługo. Nie z mojej winy. My attention was back toward the old man, and I tried to find a way to express my unease without sounding like a petrified child. These things are, I mean, they are monsters. Good job, Rafe. Congrats on acting totally mature and not at all like a scared little kid. But I had no idea what else to call them. I couldn't understand why even the horses hadn't feel threatened. Those things could kill them, and they would have done it so many times before. How could they let them roam so free in the middle of the road like this? About that, what were they doing in the middle of the road? Are there no inquisitors at the capital? O, znam jakiegoś inkwizytora, co ty na to?
O,
Czytaj.
Inquisitors comprise the most respected military force in all of Orkhan. Unlike those fraudulent saviors, they're the ones who deal with the living dead. They fight them when necessary and make sure they don't harm a living being.
To dalej ty.
Yes, of course there are, but others aren't responsible for those corpses. They are being taken care of already.
Why do you mean being taken care of? They were on their own. Fuck.
You pay any attention to what they were doing, my boy?
Nope. I opened my mouth to respond that I was, in fact, paying attention, that I was the only one who had been, was looking before biting my tongue. In the end, it was true that I was more focused on the fact that there were wrecks roaming around free as opposed to what the saviors were actually doing.
O. Czytać?
Ty już chyba doczytałeś. Chyba coś, co się nowego pojawiło.
No, że te... one tak jakby i nazwy.
Mhm. Dobra. I remained silent. The old man grinned.
They were removing the snow from the road, and since we are moving this fast, I can tell you that they did an excellent job.
Are you kidding me? I opened my eyes so wide that they started to ache. Admittedly, I did not know much about the dead in general. However, I've been around long enough to know that regardless of the method, as long as a corpse had risen, be it as a rot, a ghoul, or a vampire, they all needed to devour the living in order to survive. Ooh, ghoul.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Like the undead wanderers, ghosts keep their consciousness as well as
Yes.
all of their memories. They are provided with superhuman strength and long claws that can retract into their skin. They've been driven to resort to cannibalism in order to survive. Ghouls are physiologically unstable and much more violent than any other undead. A bite is deadly and leaves the victim with agonizing pain. Several days without any cure to save them from their invention. Face.
Nieodzowny jak jest.
Nie wiem.
Napisz sobie w wujku Google. Dobra. Informations? What's this? There is a text that every good citizen of Arkham must know by heart. When the cause of death isn't old age nor illness, it is
Indispensable.
it is possible that the deceased might come back to life. Such a thing happens when the person doesn't accept the death. They refuse to disappear and reject the immaterial world so strongly that nothing can force them back there. They are bound to our world by a burden, a regret, a deep hatred, or even a desire for revenge. The only way to keep yourself safe from those regrets is to live a poisonous and honest life. Shall you obey this method, you will not become one of these monsters. Rest.
Vampires, uh, vampires are considered a higher class of the undead and have sharp teeth and fangs. They need to feed on the blood of the living to survive, and they fear sunlight, which is why they can only be encountered during the night. Inquire for more information.
Okay. It was their self-drive to feast on the living to avoid death a second time. Why the hell would they do something as simple as clearing snow from the path?
I'm not kidding. Oh, have you ever heard of the lens?
No. His constant question was beginning to annoy me.
Well, that explains it then.
What?
What you just witnessed is sadly the norm when you're aware of what the family is capable of. It's thanks to them that there's no longer a need to be afraid of the undead, or they've turned them into nothing more than obedient, docile puppets. Ones that even let themselves get run over by a whole cart without fighting back.
Dave in his voice was palpable. It made me shiver. I wasn't able to interrupt him as he continued to explain. He had decided to tell me about the family and all the things they could do, and it seemed like nothing could have stopped him, not even my obvious signs. Fortunately, pretending to listen to Andy's rambling was nothing new. My father tended to talk an awful lot whenever he was drunk, which happened quite often. I nodded and added a few yes and here and there, patiently waiting for the trip as well as the old man's monologue to end. Stary najebany. Sorry. Sorry.
Za każdym razem samo.
It took another 15 minutes until we arrived at our destination. The coachman stopped the cart not too far from area reserved for horses, a few meters away from the capital's walls, and waved at the two men posted on the entrance. Their purpose was to ensure that nothing dangerous or illegal made its way into the capital, as if the gigantic ramparts and the enormous door weren't enough to protect the city. The two men wore breastplates that had blue fabric affixed to them. The fabric had the Savior's coat of arms embroidered on it, indicating which military faction the men belonged to. I couldn't help but grin when I saw the coat of arms. In order to become a Savior, you needed to meet very specific qualifications, elsewhere of months or even years of training before you can don their crest. Savior.
Saviors are responsible for everything that bears any relation to the living. Their purpose is to solve the punish offenses, as well as to ensure the safety of every city they oversee, often perceived as miscreant, or they punish more than they protect. They are far less revered than their fellow inquisitors.
Okej, chyba będę robić przerwę. Smacznego.
Smacznego tobie też.
Jakby ja mam trzy kawałki pizzy ogromnej, także...
Zacznijmy od tego. Tylko 3.
Ale 3 to dużo, ja zwykle jem po 2 albo 1.
O,
Także no.
4 to minimum.
Mm.
Dobra, wracając. Dlaczego ty mi to robisz? To jest takie smutne. Jeszcze tym bardziej, że ja nie mogę właśnie pizzy i w ogóle nabiału przez cały tydzień. To jest bardzo smutne dla mnie, że mnie tak torturujesz. Czemu ty mi to robisz?
Myślałam, że chodzi o czytanie. Czytaj więc.
A to they pretty irritating and getting that far only to end up standing in the same place all day in cold and snow. We find the comings and going of the city. Once the cart had stopped, the passengers started getting off the cart one by one and grabbed my bag and start moving in order to follow them. After most of the passengers exited the cart, I offered my arm to the old man, taking use of all the good manners my mother had worked so hard to instill in me. I bardzo prawilnie, bardzo prawilnie.
Co tu się stało?
The exact moment the old man placed his hand on my arm, my blood-curdling scream resounded behind me. The hero from earlier, who'd been promised a lifetime's worth of drinks, was lying on the ground. His nose was submerged beneath the snow. His arms were stretched out in front of him, straining to find something to cling onto. And his winded widened eyes were fixated on the space beneath the cart. All passengers that already gotten off the cart had stepped back, scampering away from him as though he'd caught a plague. In 2 seconds, they all stood 20 meters away from the man they'd been praising not so long. Some covered their moves in either horror or disgust. Some continued to back away, and some were returning to the city's gates to call for help. But no one bothered to approach the man or help him back up.
Muza akcja.
When the old man looked terrified, all of the sudden his hand was clenched around my arm so hard that I felt his nails scratching my skin through the material of clothes. I was the only one aware of what was happening. Then I heard a noise, a haunting and vile noise. I heard the sound of skin being shredded, flesh being ripped, limbs being chewed. There was this death rattles and sound of heavy breathing. Then came the smell. It was like the smell that emanated from a coffin that hadn't been buried deep enough. Like a chunk of meat that's been left to rot in the open infested. Slowly I looked down. Oh.
O!
Te, co przejechaliśmy, czy to jest co innego?
Ale cię zacina.
To jest to, co przejechaliśmy, czy to jest co innego?
Nie wiem. Chyba nie.
Lepiej? Nie zacina mnie już?
Mhm.
No i super. The fabric of the man's clothes were increasingly becoming so
Okej,
blah.
zacina.
The fabric of
No.
the man's clothes were increasingly becoming soaked with blood as corpse-like hands clung onto him. Wharton? Chance of escape. Fleshless fleshless hands had locked up the man's lower leg, ripping half of the muscle from the flame. On bits of her bone. Thankfully for my stomach, Mayor was standing. I was unable to see what the monster was doing to the rest of his leg, but I was able to hear his tortured screams. It wasn't difficult to imagine the horror the poor man was going through.
O!
Oczywiście, że jeden albo trzy,
Serio?
ale
Nie będę ładła.
no wiesz, ja jestem specjalny, nie wiesz co
Wiem,
chodzi.
wiem. Musimy iść specjalną drogą.
Z tym wiesz, ty mnie uczysz tego.
Czego?
Męstwa i w ogóle tam na TikToku to.
No, więc. Trzecia? Robimy sobie opinię?
Oczywiście,
Dobrze.
tak. Staruszka będziemy chronić Terana. It wouldn't have been difficult for me to get myself to safety or go to help the victim, but fortunately the same could not be said about the old man. The only thing I could do was stay by his side, making sure nothing bad happened. I grabbed hold of my dagger, ready to use it in case that thing decided to leave the poor man's leg alone and attack us instead. What are you waiting for? Help us. But none of the crowd's words who'd been quick to run away seconds prior moved at all. They simply gawped at out. They see
Oh well. Wyciszony. Wiedziałam, że tak będzie. Nawet nie wiem, czy odszedł od kompa. They simply gawked at what was lying under the cot with horrified expressions. I wasn't sure what infuriated me more, the men who were suddenly terrified of the same monsters that were making fun of a few minutes earlier, or the saviors who were debating which one of them should take care of the problem.
I to są te same stworzenia.
Hej,
Mówiłem ci od początku, a ty mi nie wierzyłaś jak do tego. Jak tak mogłaś?
co mogłam?
Nie wierzyłaś mi od początku. Że to są te same stworzenia. Jak tak mogłaś?
Myślałam, że mówisz konkretnie, że to jest to samo, co widziałeś na drodze. Oni tam stali
No
i
tak.
zostali tam, także myślałam, że o to chodzi, ale dobra. Czytasz dalej?
No przecież ty jesz.
No ja jem, no. Dawaj.
No, okay, I'm going. But you owe me for this. Aha! Jak tak można? Savor Sauntered or the poor man, dragging his feet along the way. As though saving someone's life was the worst or invincible and hit it. Sword without ceremony. Completely. Oh! Completely in the indifference, the side before him without saying a single word or even blinking an eyelid. He skewered the tip of his blade right into the wounded man's chest. Will oh, Willard s- stared as he retrieved his sword from what was now nothing more than a lifeless corpse before moving toward the things that were hiding underneath the cart. 2 blows later, he finally glanced at the old man and me and cast us an unpleasant grin. Alright, that's enough. Hugging you two. Anger's gone. I felt the old man let go of my arm and sighed with relief. I, however, was still trying to process what had just happened. Is he dead? They already are. Is your is your first time seeing a Rex or something? No, I'm not talking about those things. I mean, that man. Is he? I pointed towards the motionless corpse. The saber couldn't be bothered. Look, he merely shrugged and clicked his tongue. Dead enough not to get up again. Hey, don't give me that look, kid. Come on, don't tell me you seriously thought. Look, he got bitten, and once you get bitten by a wreck, it's pretty much over. I did him a favor by ending his suffering, that's all. He then offered his hands to help me get down from the cart. Still too bewildered to refuse his gesture, I grasped his hands and finally stepped onto the ground, doing my best to avoid looking at the carnage next to our feet. Very amused by my reaction, the savior happily slapped me on the back and said in the most sarcastic tone I'd ever heard, "Welcome to the capital, kid." He turned back to his college. College?
College.
College
Mm-hmm.
would been staring at the scene like a cat stares at the canary. O,
Czy to nie jest twoja ulubiona postać na razie?
dobra.
Ta.
W sensie nie pojawiło się za dużo na razie postaci, nie?
I mean, ma miecz.
Dziadek był fajny.
Ten ma miecz. To cię nie podziwię.
O, ale rozumiem, że walka mieczem jest zarąbista, okej? Jak to się nie walczyłem mieczem, ale walczyłem patykiem i to jest piękne uczucie, kiedy tak jak wymieniasz ataki, to jest takie piękne. Za każdym razem to samo piękne uczucie.
To się nazywa szermierka.
No wiem, chciałem się zapisać, ale tak trochę za późno jest teraz.
Czemu?
Bo rok szkolny jest tak połowa roku szkolnego, nie? To tak głupio trochę by było, nie?
No i co, nie masz matury?
Muszę poczekać do...
Nie masz matury. Jak możesz kiedykolwiek.
No, ale muszę poczekać na start roku szkolnego.
Aha, dobra, czytaj dalej.
Następny, żeby się zapisać. Jeżeli gdzieś znajdę takich lub gdzieś wokół, na moim zadupiu. Don't accept me to clean this mess. And you shouldn't accept me to do so either. Not paid to fix the Valence's little incidents. The sword guard smeared and then looked up. And then a look of realization dawned on him. He turned to face the cart's driver. His warm expression was replaced with rich disdain. How did this happen, by the way? We'll need to explain to our superiors why we've got a corpse on our hands, and we'd better have a good excuse. The coachman still leafed from the scene he'd witnessed was now shaken like a leaf. His eyes searched for someone to help him, but not a single person spoke. Well, you saw how it happened. They were clean to the cards. I had nothing to do with it. Look, look at it again. They weren't clean to the card, rather
Oh.
their belts. So?
Czytaj dalej, czytaj dalej.
Their belts got stuck in the cart's wheels. Run them over or something.
To chyba te same.
Mówiłem, że to są te same co wcześniej.
Okej.
Ty mi nie wierzyłeś za każdym jednym razem.
Bo nie słucham.
Yes, but they were in the way, so it's not like I had a choice. Another saber let out an exasperated. Jak tak możesz, babciu? Jak tak mogłaś dać trzeci kawałek? Jak tak można? Just how dumb are you? The entire time you've been coming and living in the capital and you still don't know how the Valence's magic works? It covers fixed areas, dumbass. If you stray too far from them, there goes your safety, and you get devoured. With a nod, he gestured to the remains of our fellow traveler, using it as an example. At least we don't have to worry about who's gonna clean that mess up anymore. Ah, that's right, since you were stupid enough to run over those wrecks, you're only getting in the capital once you clean that up. If I were you, I'd get to work straight away. The longer you wait, the worse the smell. The driver gave a quick glance to the dead body of his former passenger and swallowed with great difficulty. Then he nodded, perfectly aware that protesting would not change the savior's mind, and returned to the cart. Jeśli on będzie teraz czyścił to jego ciało, to na przykład jeśli znajdzie portfel, to nie może go po prostu zabrać, ponieważ on jest już martwy. Darmowe pieniądze.
Raczej tej opcji nie będzie.
Czemu nie?
Czytaj dalej.
Without further ado, the guard with the spear took out a scroll from his pocket and started calling out the names of the travelers listed on it one by one. When each passenger was called, their bags and pockets were truly searched by the other saver before they were allowed to enter the capital. Jak ty nie wiesz? And as simple as that, the incident was resolved. My legs still shaking, I tried to distract myself by taking a closer look at the capital's walls and gates. Once you got closer to it, you realized just how gigantic they were. The gate itself was almost the same height as the walls, and if they could be carried, you could easily get 3 houses to it. Various coats of arms are adorned it, and while my knowledge regarding the specific of them was practically non-existent, I still managed to spot the royal families among all. I smiled upon saying it. My father had required me to embrace three codes of arms. Yours, yours, and the royal families. I smiled upon saying it. Huh? Ah. According to my father, it was the best way to not get in trouble. This way you will know who you shouldn't be picking with fights with. He'd say it to me. You're really going to open it. I had been equal parts impressed and impatient to add, add the idea of watching the enormous piece of architecture open right before our eyes, until someone pointed out that the savers usually had the travelers go through a different, much smaller gate. Why would you build such a grandiose entrance if you weren't going to use it? Oh, this this illusionist? I was looking notice. Nie mogli normalnych słów używać. Disillusioned, I was looking noticeably sullen when the saver with the spear called my name. With my hands tucked into my pockets, I approached the two men while glaring at the small door beside them, as if it were the source of all my misfortune. Rave Rabier? Yes. Present the capital in order to join the academy. O, będzie szkoła?
Tak będzie szkoła, by the way. Jak jest jego nazwisko? Rabier. Czy tylko ja w głowie
Tak.
mam Rabusia z Dory?
Ja... Czego się będziemy uczyć w akademii?
Magii. Tak.
Magia.
To kryjowe, dobra, czytaj dalej.
Too busy revering the grand trance that had made me dream for 2 minutes. I hadn't noticed the townen smirk the swordguard addressed me with. He examined the scroll his college was holding like he was verifying its context, and then turned his attention back on me with an even bigger smile. The Mage's Academy? Wiedziała, pierdzielona. Pierdzielona. Co?
Jak ty się odzywasz do babci?
Normalnie, skubana. Zgadła. That's correct. Well, why do you ask? Is there something wrong? You're a mage and you stayed hidden without doing... Mówiłem ci od początku, żeby jedynkę wybrać. You're a mage and you stayed hidden without doing a damn thing while there's something getting devoured right in front of you. You sure you're not fucking with us? You know how that identity fraud can cost you your head, right? I I am not impersonating anyone. I just don't know how to use it properly yet. That's all. Use it properly. Wait, you mean magics? Not an instinctive thing to you guys? Leave him alone. He's just a kid. He must have freaked out. No weź. I wasn't sure whether I should be grateful or insult at this remark. Ah. Disregarding the galere his college gave him, most likely annoyed that he couldn't have his fun with the savior, continues. Elementary magic or usual magic? Uh, oh, another form of magic. Inquire for more information. There are three distinct types of elementary magic: fire, water, and wind. All mages are born with one of the three types. Generally, one discovers their potential for magic at an early age. However, depending on one's environment, well-being, or social status, the conditions needed for the magic to properly develop are not always optimal. Thus, this commonly prevents the child from being able to use magic, such is the case with Wraith.
A gdzie jest Ziemia? Ja chcę być awatarem.
Bruh. Jeszcze drugie.
Chcesz jeszcze? Nie możesz?
Nie mogę.
No i uciekło, jak zwykle. Jak tak można uciekać? To jest w ogóle śmieszne. Babcia!
Mogę czytać.
O, let's go.
Czytałeś to?
Nie.
Elementary, I think. Wait, what was the difference again? Perfect. That makes things easier. Go ahead and use it, and it will provide to use proof to us that you're really who you say you are. Are you sure you don't want to see my summons instead? I have it right here in my pocket. After seeing the distrustful look the savior gave me, I swallowed my nerves and raised my right hand. Truthfully, magic was something of a new thing for me. It was a gift few of us were blessed with, yet I couldn't control it at all. While my peers had discovered the aptitude for magic as they were learning to walk, I had only become aware of my gift a mere 3 months before undertaking the journey. I was a latecomer to magic in comparison to other mages, and absolutely everyone was made aware of the fact that each time I tried to use magic, naturally I was pretty self-conscious about it. My cheeks burned at the thought of making a fool of myself in front of the two saviors and the few travelers that had yet to enter the capital. I tried to concentrate on the palm of my hand, hoping something would emerge from it. It took all of my concentration and focus just to create an itty-bitty gust of wind, whereas other mages my age would have been able to create a tornado the size of a grown man. My performance was just enough to cause the straw the savior was holding in his hands to take flight, but not enough to impress anybody around me. Well, magic sure is impressive when you're not used to it. At least now I get why you didn't use it earlier. It wouldn't have helped at all. Nice.
That's just sad. Why?
That's just sad.
Yep.
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 Nie przewijesz tego. Nawet nie próbuj.
Nie przebiję ni chuja.
Musiałbyś być tak w sumie podduszany trochę. Sam z siebie. Takie jep, takie coś.
Dziękuję.
Mhm. Dobra. The sneer that accompanied his remark made me regret not making the gust of wind head his way instead. His college elbowed him in the ribs to shut him up and went to retrieve the list. He crossed my name of it, now that I've been as certain I wasn't stealing anyone's identity. My bag was searched and I was handed a map to help me get to the academy. Then the guards moved out of the way to let me walk through the ridiculously tiny door. The sailor with the spear saluted me one last time, finally utilizing the sarcastic tone of his that he's been holding
Nie
back
już salutowaliśmy back?
during the duration of our exchange. Nie jesteś rycerzem.
Ale... No, jak tak można?
Twój ojciec cię ogląda.
Jak? O.
Dosłownie.
Jeszcze nie wiem, proszę, byłem grzeczny. Byłem grzeczny. To babcia mnie porwała tutaj, no proszę.
O mój Boże. Welcome to the capital, Mr. Mage. Oh! Nice.
O.
Despite being ahead in the map, I had trouble finding the way on my own. I had found myself asking pedestrians for help, though many of them couldn't be bothered to stop when I called out to them. It didn't take long for me, someone who came from a village where everyone would help each other without second thought, to get dejected. I wouldn't have considered myself a shy person, and yet, when confronted with all those cold and judgmental looks from simply saying hello, I found myself unable to approach anyone. It was only at the entrance of the capital, which was, according to the map, in the resident area that I was able to find help. It was actually the district where I felt the most at home, although the inhabitants were clad in fabrics much more colorful and vivid than the ones worn in Luel. It had the same kinds of stalls, the same bellowing merchants, passing passerby by to look at the goods, and the same kids scurrying around for no apparent reason. The staggering difference, however, was the pageant stench that emerged from every street. It was even more nurturing that the foul manure my neighbor would use as a fertilizer. It was like someone had emptied the latrines of a puddle of vomit before covering the whole thing with butchered meat that even rats would think for twice about eating. It was so overbeaten that I had genuinely considered walking all the way back home by foot due to the horrid thought that the academy might have the same smell. Thankfully, this stretch would progressively lessen the closer you got to the royal palace before vanishing completely once you reach the upper estates. In the end, the stretch disappeared at the same time as the friendliness of the passerby. It led me to conclude that the more fuel to stage was, the more friendly the people were. The upper estates were separated from the rest of the city by walls that were of a familiar structure to those encompassing the capital. Although they were a bit shorter, they were still quite impressive. I had to present my summons several times in order to be allowed in, and each time it was with irritable resignation that the guards would let me pass through. I would also mention that I gotten weird looks from all the passersby when I arrived to the upper estates. However, I should note that my outfit contrasted drastically with the long silk coats and embroidered fabrics worn by the locals. The streets were immaculate and the floors were cleaner than the clothes I had on. On one hand, the thought of not having to spend the next 3 years in portrait smelling area was pretty reassuring. On the other hand, residing in the area with a more welcoming atmosphere would have been greatly appreciated. No matter where I looked, nothing seemed familiar to me. I couldn't even recognize the fruits sold at the stalls. After several pointless hours of walking in circles, I eventually found the academy. Słyszysz, jak mi się głos załamuje?
Możliwe.
Cześć Sasza, ja wiem, że oglądasz nas jeszcze 2 minuty. Okay, can do it. Finally, oh my god, the city's a literal labyrinth. I was convinced I'd never find it. I had passed by many gracious buildings before reaching my destination, each one more extravagant than the last, but even still, there was something about the academy that beckoned, welcoming warmth. There were two guards having an lively conversation, apparently disagreeing on the one question that haunted any man of productive age: how to get a woman in your bed. The first guard seemed convinced that kindness and patience would be enough for any young maiden to give in Willis. The other claimed that strength was what they were all after. Okej, po której jesteś stronie?
Jaka jest odpowiedź babci? Jaka jest odpowiedź
Czemu
babci?
się nie pytasz? Czemu się pytam?
Bo ty się znasz.
Bo?
Bo jesteś kobietą, więc ty się znasz.
Ale ja nie potrywam inne kobiety.
Nieładnie.
Tylko Mel. Tylko Mel. I didn't dare interrupt the fascinating conversations, so I let them debate for a few more minutes before indicating my presence in the most courteous way I knew how, by loudly clearing my throat. Pardon me? The hell you doing here, kid?
Nie powinien to być ja? No dobra, jak
Jak
chcesz.
chcesz, dobra.
A jak ty bardzo chcesz czytać, to proszę.
No,
ja ci nie będę
ja już się określiłeś, także.
A było tak dobrze.
Dobra.
You don't do charity here, get lost.
Had they been unarmed, without their armor and predisposition to have me rot in a cell, I would have fought them about respite in the same way my father had fought me, by punching them in the stomach. I am a student in this academy. Please let me in. The two guards exchange a knowing look, then bellowed with laughter.
No, that's a good one. Haven't heard this one before. Got any more good jokes like this, huh, kid? You also gonna say you're the king's bastard son or something?
A few passerby had stopped to look at what was causing the sudden hilarity among the gods. With my hands clenched in fists and a burning redness spread across my face, I listened, despite the palpitation in my chest, as the onlookers whisper amid each other. I repeated the words, "They are armed," over and over again, a silent mantra, an effort to claim my toned muscles. I have my summons with me to prove it. I should have started with that. After hearing me mention the summons, the guards' amusement morphed into surprise. They exchanged another wordless glance, opting to remain silent as they waited for me to show them the proof I had spoke of. Below their scrutinizing eyes, I shoved my hands into every pocket sewn all over my clothes, searching for the precious piece of paper. Their taunting smiles returned as my indignant fortitude broke down a little more with every pocket that proved to be empty. Shit, I probably lost it when I took it out earlier.
Let me guess. You lost it, right?
Fuck.
If fabricated one, maybe it wouldn't have worked. You're joking, right? I'm pretty sure the moron can't even spell his own name.
I swear, I had it with me earlier today. I can use my magic if you like, but that's what I did to get into the capital. One of the guards grabbed my arm, refusing to let me finish my sentence. He wasn't laughing anymore. Instead, he shot me the most scornful glare I ever seen.
You've got to be fucking with us, right? Just take a look at yourself. You and slaves don't reek as much of manure as you do. No weź. Wiem, że nie umiem się ubierać i mam okropny.
Czytaj.
A było tak dobrze. If you're looking for a place to spend the night, the city swears would be perfect fit. And trust me, that will be much better than the cell I'm gonna throw you in if you keep messing with us.
The guy was a ball of aggression, and his glover left no room for doubt. His threats were dead serious, and so were his insults. I needed to react as soon as possible if I didn't want my first day at the capital to end in tragedy. Ooh, they've got weapons. Okay.
Jak myślisz, jak bardzo umrzemy, jak go zaatakujemy?
Bye, Sasha, bye.
Co?
Sasha ucieka.
Ja
Brały
go
strażnicy.
Ale nie napisał nic na czacie. Ja nic nie widzę na
A na
czacie.
Messengerze mam, sorry.
Aha, jak tak możesz?
Ojciec ci przypomina, żebyś za późno się nie kładł.
Aha,
To jest polecenie
ja
od
zawsze.
ojca. Tak, tak.
aha. Polecenie?
No tak, tak, tak. Przypomnienie.
To się
co?
rozkaz czy takie...
Od babci jak najbardziej.
Prośba. A od ojca i od ciebie.
Nie wiem, zapytaj się ojca. Dobra, co wybieramy?
Ale on poszedł. Użyjmy wagi. Najbezpieczniej.
Istnieje coś takiego jak Discord. Since that's deciding to not let me explain myself, I was going through the roof right in their faces. I told you I was a student. A gun to wind emerged from my hand, causing my attacker's helmet to fly over the gate. His college shattered his sword while I savored this victory as much as when I drank my first beer. We can drink beer. We can drink alcohol. I plan on mocking them for the mistake after taking a few steps back to enjoy the sight, but my back hit the wall behind me. The wall. The wall.
Zaczyna się. What's going on here?
To
Poczekaj,
rozkaz.
czekaj, zapomnij.
Sasza powiedział, że to rozkaz.
A to napisał mi, o nie.
Okej.
Nie wiem, obudzić mojego taty. 19.
Co? Przeczytałeś to? A, dobra, wyciszył się, dobra.
Dobra, ja będę go się czytać, będzie szybciej. What's going on here? Yeah, okej, poczekam sobie. Wyjebam po...
Okay, this. Make sure it's this. Oh my god, no.
Dobra, nie mogę, to samo będę czytać. Co za problem. That mirror made my helmet fall.
You literally asked for it. That sounded way more childish than I intended. The man looked me up and down, disregarding what the gods that stood before us were saying. Are you Rafe Rabier? Yes. Whoa, this is the first time I was spoken to like an adult. I've been looking for you. courier announced your arrival a few hours ago. I've been tasked with finding you, as you had yet to show up. Oh, I got lost. Well, I am glad to see you've reached your destination safely. The man walked over to the gate and pushed it open. He nodded in invitation for me to follow him, continuing to blatantly disregard the two guards' protests. Both the guards appeared ready to murder me. You won't get away with this, boy. With vindictive satisfaction, I offered them my most radiant smile while pointing my middle finger toward the sky before they entered the academy. Bunt. Bunt. Bro. Okay. Dziecko mi uciekło. No. Nie, zawsze dobra. Ooh, wow. I had never seen such an illuminated interior before. The floor was so clean you could see the room's furniture reflected on it. It was weird seeing a vast place like this completely void of people. Where is everybody? All of them are currently busy with their respective task. If you wait a few hours, you'll be able to meet the other residents. He then gestured for me to follow him. I complied without hesitation, despite the fact that the man was at least 2 feet taller than me and had a perpetual frown etched on his ashen face. There was not something comforting about him. Probably it was because he was the first person who hadn't scowled at me less since I arrived to this damn city. I was so relieved that I had finally someone I could talk to without risking anything. I tried to engage him in conversation as we walked down the corridors of the academy. What's your name? Sure, you must have some sort of a title. Everyone calls me Ilias? I suggest you do the same. Okay, Ilias, and I'm assuming you're a teacher here. That's why you come to pick me up. No, I am the head of the Academy Guard. Wow, they really sent the head of the Academy Guard to come get me. Thank you. It's really kind of you to have taken the trouble to collect me. You probably must have much more important things to do. The man gave me a kind, faint smile, laced with the slightest trace of melancholy. I was merely doing my job. My god, this man is a startup. Yeah, kinda. Wygląda jak to za... We ascended the stairs to the second floor and continued to walk until we reached a narrow corridor with several doors. Where are we? At your room, Mr. Rabbit. I look at the 3 doors one by one, like a weather vane blown by the wind. I had a room. That was the best news of the day. The communal dormitory, where all the students slept in the same room, like the ones in the military schools that all the members of my family had attended. No, it was like nothing like that. Instead, we had our own very own room. Fuck. Which room is mine? You decide, Mr. Rabbit. Usually, we've never had more than 6 students per year. These rooms are arranged to accommodate 2 students each.
Beze mnie?
Tak, bo uciekłeś. All of the rooms provided for your division are already occupied by one of the classmates, therefore it doesn't matter which one you can pick. One you pick. Uciekłeś, nic nie powiedziałeś i puf, nie macie, okej?
Powiedziałem, że miałem obudzić mojego tatę, a zapomniałem.
Aha.
Co się wydarzyło?
Gościu jest głową strażników tutaj, on nie jest nauczycielem, nazywa się Ilias, zaprowadził do dormitorium, w którym mamy swój własny pokój i właśnie mówi, że uczniów jest zwykle 6 na rok, dlatego każdy może sobie wybrać pokój, kuźwa.
O.
Tak. Oh, well, it's not that bad. A double room's much better than a communal dormitory. So I just pick a room, just like that. Do I at least get to look inside the rooms before making my decision? It's just a room, Mr. Rubber. It isn't that significant of an affair. Okay, I'll be spending my next 3 years in that room. I'd rather not have any regrets. Ilias let out an exasperated sigh. Okej, ty będziesz nim, bo już zaczęłam go.
Yes, alright, I'll show you the interior of the rooms. Which room would you like to see first? O! Na prawo.
I'd like to see the room on the right, please. Ilias strode over to the door before inviting me to enter. The room was but
Bierzemy,
eccentric.
zarobić to jest.
The bed was buried under multiple layers of blankets. The walls were linked with various trinkets, and the rug on the floor was embellished with a type of embroidery that was not typically found in Arkham. Even the colors themselves were much warmer and brighter than what you'd usually see. A stove was tucked in a corner of the room, which resulted in a sultry warm heat to swallow the air itself. The room was noticeably warmer than the rest of the school. This room is quite eccentric.
I believe that's precisely what your peer was aiming for. You wish to settle here, Mr. Rabier? Chcę zobaczyć inne jeszcze, dajesz.
No, I'd like to see the other ones, please. Ilias heaved a sigh.
As you wish, Mr. Rabier. Which room would you like to see next? Na środku, będziemy szli po kolei.
Ooh, the room was opulent as the rest of the academy. It was overflowing with various possessions, some of which were stacked on what should have been the empty bed.
A czekaj, mam pytanie.
Mhm.
Jeżeli tu są 2 łóżka,
Mhm.
będziemy z kimś dzielić?
Być może.
Pokój? Proszę, nie. Było tak fajnie. Zaczyna się.
The room's resident even allowed himself the luxury of putting curtains up the window, curtains that were higher quality than the clothes I was wearing. The wardrobe has an intricate pattern carved into the wood. An ornate rug was spread on the floor, and the sheets looked made from the silk. Everything in the room exuded luxury and wealth.
Are we allowed to have that many things in the room? By the way, chyba robię przerwę chwilą.
Nie musisz wiedzieć.
Weź,
Nie musisz.
weź.
Dobra, kontynuujemy.
W ogóle to Sasza powiedział, że jeśli nie przetrzymasz do późna, to że podobno sobie zaprzeczysz samej sobie i że oberwiesz, więc
A kiedy jest późno, tak w ogóle?
to jest bardzo dobre pytanie,
Dokładnie.
którego nie uwzględnił. Czekaj, zapytam się go.
Nie pytaj. Are we allowed to have that many things in the room? Teraz ty.
Już.
No, teraz w tej chwili.
To bring as many possessions as you like indeed. Would you like to leave yours here, Mr. Rabier? Nie, widzimy więcej.
No, I'd like to see the other ones, please. It is Heath, aside.
As you wish, Mr. Rabier, which room would you like to see next?
The door on the left.
Mamy jakiś wybór?
The room was rather unassuming and quite tidy, the complete opposite of my own room back at my parents' house. The bed was impeccably made, not a single wrinkle inside. All the books in the small bookshelf were arranged in alphabetical order, and even my own mother wouldn't have been able to follow clothes as neatly as the ones in this room were.
Do you wish to settle here, Mr. Rabier? I chcemy więcej, let's
No
go.
nie ma więcej. Tylko to
No,
3.
sprawdźmy, co się stanie.
No, I'd like to see the other ones, please. Mr.
Seen all of the rooms already. I can't afford to waste any more time, as I still need to give you your uniform and show where your class is currently. Help, please make a decision.
Ah. Okay. So, which one do I like the best? The simple room, the opulent room, the sword room?
Opulent to był ten niebieski?
Mhm.
Go nie wybierzemy. Na pewno będzie miało jakieś działanie dla fabuły, bo jeżeli są 2 łóżka, to znaczy, że i drugie łóżko będzie zajęte przez kogoś. Zapewne, jeżeli wybierzemy ten ostatni, to będzie coś ciekawszego niż normalny ten.
Dobra, bierzemy coś
ten
ciekawego.
ostatni. Tak.
I will take the search room.
Finally. You can leave your bag here. I'll go ask for your bed to be prepared. Po
Thanks.
prawej to jest nasze łóżko, nie?
A chyba tak. And sorry, I just wanted to be sure. I put my belongings away and we headed out of the room. It feels so nice to not have to carry that bag around.
If you would care to follow me.
Where are we going? Are we visiting the class now?
Yet you still need your uniform, Mr. Brabier. If you keep your current attire, the personnel will undoubtedly betray you?
Be right, yeah.
Po polsku?
I had no
To też nie
idea
wiem.
what he meant by berate, but I didn't dare to point it out. There was no way I was going to make myself seem like an illiterate idiot. Instead, I frowned, feeling somewhat annoyed.
Coraz bardziej się uosabiam z tym bohaterem. Daj pierwszy.
Mhm. Wymyślać, krytykować, stofować.
Co?
Tell Ilias to stop calling Mr. Rabia. Ilias? Excuse me.
Yes, Mr. Rabier?
Well, it's about that. Mr. Rabia, it's so weird to hear you refer to me that way. Could you just call me Rafe? After all, it's not like you asked me to address you as Mr. Commander or Mr. Ilias. Ilias' tacit stare seemed never-ending.
You must respect the hierarchy, Mr. Rabier.
What hierarchy? Exactly. I don't know much about it, but I'm pretty sure that a simple student ranks much lower within the hierarchy than a commander. Again, Iris silently stared at me, and then...
Now, let us not waste any more time with the trivialities.
Mm-hmm.
This sort, Mr. Rabier, you're already late enough. Oj, się spóźniłem, jak zwykle.
I guess that's a no then. Ilias had escorted me to get my measurements taken by a man who'd spent most of the session complaining about my late arrival, then using his pens and tape measure. He'd even pricked me several times before apologizing, only continuing the matter about how criminal it was to allow such a beautiful fabric to be wasted on a hick like me. I should have been annoyed by his remarks, but I was too busy looking at my reflection in the mirror that stood beside us. He was right, though. The fabric I was wrapped in was gorgeous. I almost had trouble recognizing myself. If standing still hadn't been such a pain, I could have stayed there for hours just admiring my reflection. After the tailor finished taking all the notes and measurements he needed, he removed the fabric of what was soon to be a uniform off of me. Ilias then asked that I follow him again. When we reached the first floor, he brought me to a room I had yet to visit. And now, what do I have to do?
This room is exclusively reserved for first-year students. It is where the majority of your lessons will be held, and it is also where you will to introduce yourself to your fellow classmates.
Introduce myself? Do I really have to? What am I even going to say?
Yes. You're not only late today, Mr. Rabber, you're late this year. This began several months ago. You're trying to board a boat that has already left the dock. You need to abide by the rules. Jestem specjalnym przypadkiem po prostu. Żeby się spóźnić miesiące. The rules include introducing yourself to your classmates and your teacher.
He laid his hand on the doorknob and waited for my approval to open it. I nodded as I swallowed down my nerves. Ilias knocked 3 times and then pushed the door open.
Ooh. Oh my god.
Just mówi, że limit jest do 1 w nocy. Na pewno tak długo nie będę siedział, bo pewnie ci około 22 spierdolę, a nawet wcześniej. Więc jest git.
Na pewno, znając życie.
No tak.
Fuck.
Similar to the rest of the academy, the classroom was very bright, even though the sun was beginning to set below the horizon. There were 4 people inside the room. 3 of them were young men who were certainly the same age as me. A slightly older man was standing before them with an open book held in his hand. Hearing the door open, all 4 of them raised their eyes to us, slightly surprised at the intrusion. The man who seemed to be the teacher looked me over with a slight grin.
Not only you're late, but you're also not wearing your uniform. Not off to a great start, young man.
Young man, young man. There was no sign of disapproval in his voice or in his eyes. On the contrary, he seemed to be amused by the situation. I felt Ilias' hand on my back, encouraging me to move forward. Intimidated by the situation, I managed to take a step forward, being cautious to avoid actually getting closer to the teacher and the other students.
What should I do? What should I say? Oh my god, why is it hot as hell in here all of a sudden?
Well, because the teacher is hot. I stood with my mouth agape, twitching to say something, but being in front of an important authority figure like him, and he was just a teacher, for God's sake. I couldn't even mumble 2 words. Same here.
Wiecie, że to dosłownie by się wydarzyło, gdybym miał taką sytuację. Dosłownie tak samo by było.
I was terrified of humiliating myself or saying the wrong thing, or even worse, having the teacher take out a wooden stick to beat me with because I didn't respond the way he expected me to.
Oh god.
Thankfully, Ilias ended up pitying me and spoke in my stead.
Forgive us, Mr. Valence. We had a few logistical concerns. The robber had arrived to the capital this morning, but he had to find his way to the academy on his own and met a few difficulties along the way.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. I was so anxious that my voice was higher pitched than normal. The teacher didn't break eye contact with me. And neither did the students, but I wasn't paying attention to them. Yes, exactly. And then his smile returned after listening to Ilia's explanation. With his voice still calm, though a hint of amusement lacked in his tone, he addressed me.
And may I be informed of the type of difficulties you had to face, Mr. Rabier?
I got lost, sir. I freak out. Same. A conscious silence stretched over the room. Then the town student burst into laughter, followed by two others who at least had the decency to try and contain their own laughter. Widzisz ten po lewej ciemny, nie? On się zaśmiał.
Czemu to znowu jest Yaoi? Dlaczego?
Fuck! Oh my God. Później do siebie coś napiszę, dobra?
U mnie?
Może. Coś się dzieje.
Aaron się dzieje?
Być może.
Ja wiedziałem.
Czytaj.
That really wasn't the answer I was accepting, but alright. In any case, you appear to be very straightforward person. However, please be aware, Mr. Rabier, that courtesy is one of the fundamental laws of this academy. You're speaking to your teacher, not your
Sorry, sir. I won't do that again.
Us to hear that.
The teacher turned his attention back to the other students while glaring at the one who was still laughing. The student wiped a tear from the corner of his eye.
Okay, not that, Mr.
Czytaj jak pisze.
Jedi. Mr. Jedi. Finally calm down, we can move on.
W końcu nie tylko ja zmieniam imiona. Thank you.
I had to, okay?
To dalej ty.
Jestem specjalny. Thank you for coming all the way here, Alice. You can return to your other obligations now.
Ilias nodded and exited the room without another word. Once the door closed, the teacher cleared his throat. He took out a handkerchief from his pocket, removed his monocle, and proceeded to clean it fruitfully in sacred silence. The student with the long hair gestured toward the vacant seat next to the town student, smiling as he invited me to take a seat there. I approached the vacant seat as fast as possible, relieved that I no longer had to stand in front of everyone. The pit in my stomach vanished as soon as I sat down. Being on the same side as the other students was far less intimidating than being on the same side as the teacher. It must have been what the teacher was waiting for, as he continued to clean his monocle up until the very second I laid my bat on the bench.
I'm Mr. Valence. I could be him. I'm Mr. Valence. As you may have already understood, I will be your teacher for the 3 next years. On się już nie przedstawia, skoro jesteśmy spóźnieni miesiące?
Kto?
Się nie no, nauczyciel.
Teraz się
Skoro się
przedstawia.
Skoro się spóźniliśmy jakiś miesiąc, to nikt zdążył nauczyć. Czegokolwiek.
No tak,
Czemu się przedstawia?
bo ty go nie znasz.
Well, so welcome, other teachers, but it's my responsibility to prepare you for obligations and self-respecting mage will have to face. I'm the only one you... Oug? To jest oug. Ja nie wiem co...
Czyli co?
Oug. Ugt.
Gdzie to jest?
I am the one you
Off tu.
Of
To jest tak samo
to
jakbyś mówił
address.
shoot.
Consider a difficulty of any kind. The one with whom you will choose the occupation that will suit your best, and shall you disturb the order and peace of the academy. Will be the one to take the necessary disciplinary measures. But I hope it won't come to that.
Me too. Fuck.
These young people who are sitting beside you will be your classmates for the next 3 years, and the academy accepts you to show them as much respect as you show the teaching staff.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Chcesz to zamienić, żebyś ty był studentem, a ja nauczycielem? Chcesz to?
Można, jak najbardziej.
Aha, mówisz to przez tekst, nie? Okay. That being said, gentlemen, you can go now. It's futile trying to teach anything until you all ask him that question, don't you agree?
Jak przez tekst o co ci chodziło, bo nie zrozumiałem.
Nie, masz problem.
O ty. Jak tak może? What question?
Noticing that everyone had risen after Mr. Valence gave permission, I imitated them and stood up as well. I immediately felt someone rub their arm around my shoulder before leading me out of the classroom. Mogę to czytać, serio. Jakby gość jest zarąbisty. Okay.
Skąd wiesz?
Bo wygląda zarąbiście. When he says you can go now, you don't question it. You go. Come with me. We need to have a little chat.
Trzyma się.
The 10th student then dragged me to the entrance of the academy, with the other 2 students following close behind. Like Elias said, the area was a bit more lively than it had been when I first arrived, as now classes were over for everyone, yet I had too much on my mind to really notice. The entire time since we'd left the classroom, I couldn't stop wondering what those 3 boys wanted from me, and my damn imagination had forcibly shown me so many dramatic outcomes that my stomach began aching again. My cousin had told me about an old custom that was found pretty much everywhere, regardless of the profession. It was some sort of ritual where the newbie was forced to humiliate themselves for the sake of the seniors, and I was convinced it was exactly what they intended to do to me. When the 10th student finally released his hold so that he could stand in front of me, I clenched my fists, prepared to defend myself if they tried doing anything. So, Rabia, before we go get something to eat, there's this one thing we'd like to know.
Yeah? A single move, pal, I dare you, and I will destroy you. Czego destroy?
Chcesz być blond shrimp? Będzie pasować do ciebie.
Co?
Blond shrimp, który... Czytaj go, bo pasuje do ciebie.
Aha, a przy... Czemu ty mi co robisz? Which room did you pick?
Wygląda jak Bobo. Taki puci. I was expecting a lot of things, but definitely not this. The only one who didn't seem to be interested in the conversation was the one with the long hair. The other 2, however, stared at me with such attentiveness that it was as though their entire lives depended on my answer.
Babciu, zapewne ten po prawej. To jest ten, co był pokój po prawej, nie?
Być może.
To jest ten, z nim będziemy prawdopodobnie mieli pokój.
Tak.
Po środku to był ten od niebieskiego, a ten po lewej wygląda najbardziej uporządkowanego, dlatego on by miał te książki tak poukładane, to na pewno jest on. To
Rozumiem
jest na
twoją
pewno w tej
logikę.
samej kolejności.
Rozumiem, ja bym wybrała tego po lewej, ale okej. Dawaj.
Mogliśmy go wybrać, ale
Cóż.
trudno. Pick the room on the right.
The blonde shrimp let up a triumphant scream while the town student shoved his hands in his pockets, looking disappointed. Only the long-haired student remained completely indifferent toward this revelation, as he was more interested in gazing out the window than in our conversation. You didn't need to be a genius to guess why the shrimp was so happy. Had dropped my luggage off in the town student's room, to his utmost displeasure. However, he seemed quick to get used to the idea as a grin reappeared on his face a few seconds later. Hey, at least you have great taste.
To już nie wiem.
Today.
Its taste you must be kidding me. Just look at the tattered rags he's wearing. Looks like he found them in the garden. That means say they'll go well with the ones that already hang on the walls of your room. Wiedziałem!
Chcesz go
Ale
czytać?
jestem mądry.
Chcesz go
Let's
czytać?
go. Nie.
Czemu?
Aś go tak bardzo, ty go czytasz. Odbiorę ci tej radości.
Would you please keep it down? You're going to get us in trouble.
They kept arguing about the decor of the rooms until eventually in the dark, feeling somewhat lost.
Was that all you wanted to know? Was the question?
What? Prawdopodobnie was. What was? Albo that
Question
was the
was
question. That. Pasuje.
Mr. Valence was talking about the one that prevented him from counting in class?
They all stopped querying at once and shared a look. What, you really that surprised? We've been told for weeks that one of us was gonna have to share his room with a new student. Now, since said new student has finally arrived and dropped off his things, we wanna know which one of us lost the privilege of having their own room.
Seems like it doesn't require much to distract all of you.
That's because there isn't much going on in the school, probably.
I felt both reassured and somewhat offended. There was so much I wanted to ask them: where they were from, what their type of magic was, what their names were, and somehow the only thing that cared to know about me which room I picked, because it let them know which one of them would have to share the room with me. I looked at my bad mood was visible on my face since the long-haired boy approached me asking.
What's my favorite? That's fuck.
What was the look? Is something wrong? If it's because I look mad, don't worry, you look like a fun guy, so living together shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, I get it. It's because I called you Robbie, right? Well, excuse me, I don't want to seem rude or anything, but we are the same age, so I'm not gonna call you Mr. and none of us know your given name. Mr. Valence kept calling Mr. Robbie whenever he talk about you. His comment made me smile. When you call someone by their given name without a title of nobility or honorific, and moreover in an informal manner, it was because either you were familiar enough with the person to do it without the risk of offending them, or on the contrary, it was because you wanted to insult them. At least that's how it was among the elite men of this world. Where I was from, however, we'd prefer to people however we wanted, and no one ever took offense to it. That's why him calling him Robert made no difference to me. I was more shocked having someone address me in a polite manner than to be addressed by my given name.
Dobrze rozumiesz, że ja jestem w elicie. Jestem w elicie mężczyzn tego świata. To jest...
Nie, nie
To jest-
jesteś.
Kontynuuj.
Okay, rozumiem. But despite of that, I was glad he mentioned it, because it was allowed to me to introduce myself in a much more natural manner than what Mr. Valence had expected me to do during class. Jaki ja mam brudny telefon, dobra.
My name's Rave Ravier. You can call me Rave.
Okay, Rafe, I'm Carrie Jedi.
Hi, Fisher.
You may refer to me as Mr. Leroy. Aha! Is this guy for real?
Call him Shrew.
Ah, do it! Scary hide and shrimp. Right, so that makes scary hide and shrimp. What?
Mr. Leroy's anger was equivalent to Carrie's amusement. Even Hyde, who had remained stoic up until then, smiled. For my part, I savored the effect my reply had on him, like I would savor a bowl of hot goat milk during the winter.
Forgetting where you belong, you hick. You're not from the same social class, and this thanks to all the money wealthy families like mine donate to this academy that allows peasants like you to study here. You owe me respect. But I do respect you, shrimp. It's an awful affectionate nickname, that's all.
My insensory, innocent tone pushed him over the edge.
Affectionate? Well, I don't know where you can show your affection.
For God's sake, Renan, keep it down. You're the one who instigated it.
Ooh, you're Renan. No, your worst nightmare. You will pay for this. Vain?
Plebeiusz.
Sorry enough, I didn't feel very threatened.
Once we were done introducing ourselves, a man wearing a uniform similar to Ilias called us to order, which also allowed me to know what curfew started as soon as night fell, which would be the case soon. Just when I thought I should go to the infamous room, everyone had lost their minds over my stomach started grumbling loudly, quite bothered that I had even dared to think about having to bed without eating first. Slowly, I raised my eyes toward the guys, hoping they didn't hear, but despite how my stomach had made, didn't go unnoticed at all.
Ojoj. Sorry, I haven't eaten anything since arrived.
No worries. I'm starting to get hungry too. I don't know what you are used to eating at home, but you'll see that this academy's food is worthy of reality.
Royalty? Oh, come on, we aren't allowed seconds, and there's no dessert. Dessert? You mean those extremely sugary meals that are worth an entire dough? Jak to tak bez cukru?
Jesteśmy biedni.
Ja bym umarł. That guy must be ridiculously wealthy if he's able to eat those often. What's with the word look? Nothing.
Like he'd said done before, Carrie wrapped his arm around my shoulder and dragged me away. Come on, let's not stay here, and we're gonna get scolded by the gods again. Hyde was right. The Akasami's food was fit for a king. My plate contained dishes that were too succulent to be real and had filled my stomach like on the days of celebratory feasts. I was able to taste the food I never for the first time of the market stalls in the capital and had to regretfully admit that the
Jak
mother's
to?
cuisine wasn't in fact the best in the world.
Jak tak można?
Słuchaj, mama nie, ale babcia lepiej.
A, no właśnie, dobra. Zwracam sobie przyjaźń. Dobra, okej. Chociaż przy tobie to nie wiem, ale zwracam sobie przyjaźń.
Jak mogłeś? W sumie nie wiem gotować, ale... I had
Oh,
dinner
shit.
with the free student which according to Carrie wasn't something that was going to happen again anytime soon. Renan had the habit of eating alone, and the only reason he'd join us that night was because the room I had chosen had put him in a good mood. We had a long conversation about my journey and the reason as to why I was late. All throughout it, Renan had complained multiple times about the weird looks we were getting from all the other students around us, blaming me for drawing attention to our group with my peasant face. It should be pointed out that I was the only student still wearing their civilian clothes, and in the middle of those pristine white uniforms, my outfit seemed a bit off. And as for Carrie, well, he seemed to be immensely enjoying the situation. He had sat next to me and listened to even the most mundane of my anecdotes, not allowing himself to miss a single one, although he also had missed an opportunity to chime in with jokes aimed toward me, but at least he'd been much more attentive than the other two.
We were supposed to party, but since you got great taste in room decor, it looks like we're gonna have to spend the rest of the night together.
Someone has said that you'd kicken him all the way back to the sticks if he had made the mistake of picking your room. You're taking all of this rather well.
That was before finding out that Rafe was such a funny guy. Had he been as egotistic and annoying as you, things wouldn't have turned out the same way, trust me.
Some would go as far as selling their own mother just to be around a man of my caliber, but sure, go ahead. Stick with the village Wairo. He's the only one around who can make you seem smarter than you really are. By comparison, after all.
I turned to Hai, pointing at both of them.
Is it me or is it not me again?
If you're asking yourself that, he's probably not wrong.
Ouch.
Let's go, Rafe. We've got better things to do than listen to a loser and whatever Hyde is. I waved good night to my classmates before following Carrie back to our room. As I was getting ready to close the door behind us, I could hear Renan whisper to Hyde. Możesz to przeczytać?
So, what do you think?
My stuff had been placed in the room while I was away, and while the tailor had assured me that I wouldn't get my uniform before the following day, it had already been delivered and was neatly folded on the shelf above my pillows. The numerous animal hides and furs that my mom had stuffed into my bag were sorted my thickness inside my wardrobe, and a few trinkets I'd brought as mementos from Lowell had been placed inside a drawer, sheltered from dust. For the first time in weeks, I felt warm, safe, and finally home. The only negative part was the heat. The room's air was almost suffocating.
How about we turn off the stove, or at least remove some charcoal? I'll never be able to sleep in this heat.
Okay, no way. I put up with the end is nice climate all day long, so forgive me for wanting my own room to be comfortable.
For table. Rooms practically fire.
Rest assured that it will be if you dare make a move toward my stove. I am a fire mage, and I make perfect use of my magic. I'd even go as far to say I'm the best student in the class. I was going to
Tak
object,
czułem.
but the tidbit of information threw me off so much that I lost the thread of the argument. There are 3 types of elemental magic. You could either control water, fire, and lastly air. I was part of that last category of mages, which was, according to me, the last impressive of all 3. Therefore, having someone stand before me with a type of magic that was much more useful and powerful than mine was enough to make me forget about everything else, even the huge drops of sweat that were dropping off my back because of the damn heat.
Wow, controlling fire must be so cool.
Seeing how truly amazed I was, Carrie's ego inflated a bit, and he gave me a grin that bode nothing good. Careful, Dave. The last person who looked at me like that ended up pressed against the wall, begging me to slow my moves down. Fuck! That doesn't sound good. Fuck.
Mówiłeś, że będzie tutaj lżej.
Słuchaj. Obrazków nie masz takich, nie?
Na razie. Jeszcze akurat się wstrzeliłem w niego.
Co zrobiłeś? Co zrobiłeś?
Czytaj.
Moves? What moves? What were you doing? You do say that to yourself. I don't need to know if you rolled in the hay.
Rolled in hay is that I say from where you're from, because where I'm from, we say pierce the wine barrel,
Which is more obvious and also closer to reality.
Shut up.
Cover my ears.
Oczywiście
Chyba
musiałem
jest
wybrać akurat to.
I wouldn't be able to hear him. And to my bed. I knew my face in my pillows. I had nothing against a low left joke or anything. They would even give me a good laugh their way. But in the process of trying to understand what Carrie meant by moves, I imagined him doing the thing. Even though it was a completely made up image, it still turned out to be a very traumatizing sight. When I was finally
Nawet
able
charakter się zgadza ze
to make it disappear from my brain, Carrie was sitting on his bed, clutching at his sides as he bellowed with laughter.
You really enjoy... A nie. Tak. And you really enjoy this.
Yes. Well, it's not like I'm gonna cry over it. I was expecting something like that from the little punk, but not you. Oh, come on, you're not gonna sit here and tell me that you didn't talk about that stuff in the sticks. I thought it was one of your favorite conversation topics.
Just talk about it. Just talk about it with close relatives and friends, not with the people you literally just met. Tak to nie.
Ouch, you're breaking my heart there, Rafe. I thought we were like brothers already, after all you've been through together.
What?
Well, for starters, you chose my room. That is proof in and of itself of a faithful connection between us, a powerful bond that can only lead to a strong and unwavering friendship. I had thrown one of my pillows at his face. He burst into laughter again, wiped off a tear in the corner of his eye, and regained his composure with a sigh. Evidently, he was having a great time. Okay, save your strength for tomorrow lectures. I quit. I just wanted to tease you a little bit.
Make sure you don't make it into a habit. I hate being made fun of.
His beaming smile told me that, yes, it would become a habit, unfortunately.
Tell me more about the lectures. I really don't know what to accept.
There were more subtle ways to change the subject, but exceptional circumstances requiring desperate measures. Carrie decided he'd had enough fun for the rest of the night and allowed me to steer the conversation to a different topic without pressing the issues. Didn't you ask anything before coming here?
No, I thought I'd find out when the time came.
Well, in that case, I'm not gonna ruin the surprise. You'll see how it goes tomorrow.
Why won't you answer my question?
It will be 100 times less fun. Ken and Ab,
Bruh.
however, relented when I shot him with a murderous glare. Since you got here, Mr. Vance is probably gonna want to evaluate your abilities, so I guess the elementals are going to have to make something to see if there's a difference in skill between us.
A big between. Like something, what do you mean?
God, Rave, the more we talk, the more I wonder if Renan was right when he insisted you're stupid. Make something with magic. During our first class, Mr. Valens had asked us to make a bird, so maybe he'll ask us to do it again to see how we are able to do it now.
Couldn't do it back then?
Of course I could, but it wasn't to Mr. Valens' taste. He claimed I failed, although it had been nothing but a difference of opinion. He thought my bird was ugly, but I thought it was majestic.
Oh. Daj drugie. Hey, didn't you say you were the best student in the class?
Yeah, and? How does that have anything to do with what I just told you?
Can you really be the best student when the teacher thinks you failed your exam?
It wasn't an exam, he was just evaluating our abilities. God damn it, Brave, you never listen to anything, do you?
Yeah, I don't. Isn't that the exact purpose of an exam?
But yeah, go off, mock me all you want. We'll see how well you do tomorrow. Trust me, I'm going to criticize your stupid bird down to its every last feather. And then something I had never been avoiding up until the moment finally blew up in my face. Create a beard, create a beard. Beard. How do you create a bird? Eventually, elementary magic only allowed you to use your element. How could you create something, anything using it?
Wait, when you said we gotta make bird, to actually make the bird?
What kind of question is that? There are many other things of doing it.
Exactly, that's what I'm asking about. How do you do it?
You just make the bird?
You're not helping.
Look, what do you want me to do? I don't even get why you're freaking out in the first place. There's nothing complicated about it. All you're gonna do is just focus the magic in your hands and force it to take the form you want.
Can you show me?
No.
Oh, please, you're close, right? We're connected through a very friendship. No, that's good stuff.
Well, you should have thought about that before you threw your pillow at my face. I'm not doing any magic tonight. I had enough doing it all day. And if I showed you how to do it, I'd miss my chance of having a good laugh tomorrow when you inevitably make a fool of yourself in front of everyone.
It's a request from a desperate man.
And then from a man who doesn't give a shit. Fuck off. I'm just... After spending several long minutes begging Carrie to help me out, I ended up surrendering and instead just accepted my fate. Tomorrow, when they are going to evaluate our abilities, I'm going to get ridiculed by everyone. I consoled myself with the thought that I was still a beginner and that, after all, the reason I had joined this academy was to learn and to improve my skills. No one in their right mind would expect me, a total beginner, to already know how to create something on my first day. Wyobrażam sobie after lessons with Mr. Valen, ale okay. I finally let myself drop onto my bed, worn out by stress and the crazy day that was now behind me. The heat of the room woke me up several times throughout the night, causing me to flip my pillow over numerous times in an effort to find some cool relief from the heat. In the end, I managed to fall into a deep slumber after throwing half of my bed sheets onto the floor. Ding. Gosh!
What was that noise?
It's the first bell. Get up quickly. We got about 15 minutes to get ready and get to class. If you are not there by the time the second one rings, Valence is gonna tell us off again.
Again?
I didn't listen to half of what Carrie had explained to me as I was too preoccupied with my enormous yawn. The farmer in me had the habit of waking up at sunrise without needing help from a bell or another person. It was currently the hour at which Luelle was waking up, and since I had spent my entire life there, my body had gotten used to the peace of that town. It had become an automatic thing for me to the point where I thought it would be impossible for me to wake up after the roosters. Yet the bright, intense light that bathed the room indicated it was far past sunrise. My inner clock had specifically waited for my first day of class to let me down. I should have been panicking, doing something as quickly as possible, but that wasn't the case. My still half-asleep mind had decided that since Carrie was in the room with me, there was no need to worry. I could take my time. Seeing how sluggish I was getting up, Carrie grabbed my shoulder and shook me vigorously, causing my teeth to rattle in a rhythmic manner. Come on, what the hell are you doing? Don't you just sit there. Get your ass up. I told you we're going to be late.
Ouch.
I rubbed my jaw with one hand while the other went to my eyes, which were hurting from the potent sunlight that spilled through the window. My body was accustomed to sleeping more than 6 hours. It took me a few seconds to remember where I was and even who I was. After rubbing my eyes so hard they turned red, I finally realized the urgency of the situation. We are going to be late. All of a sudden, as though a bucket of freezing water had been thrown on my face, I leapt out of bed, wide awake. I had forgotten that half of my bed sheets had jumped ship during the night, and those traitors caused me to lose my balance. The very moment I tried to get out of bed, Carrie turned to face me, surprised by the thought my body made when it hit the floor. He burst into laughing when he heard me groan in pain. He lent me a hand to help me up, amusement evident in his face. Don't break a leg, okay? Actually, that would be a perfect excuse. Valence can't blame us for being slowpokes if we had to take a stop by the nurse office before going to class. You sure you're not hurt?
You get ready instead of spouting idiots nonsense.
Once up, I grabbed my uniform, set it on my bed, and was about to start changing into it. I had barely placed my hand on my belt when I felt Carrie's fingers grab my wrist.
Hey, I'm trying to get ready.
Carrie put on an air of false revulsion. Are you really gonna put up your brand new uniform without washing yourself first? How unhygienic of you, Rafe. This is not the sticks anymore, and you know that.
It's not about lacking hygiene or anything, it's just common sense. You said we don't have much time before class starts.
We still have enough time for a quick shower. We'll skip breakfast instead.
Bruh, czemu?
Co nie?
Keep breakfast to shower, that really was a poor choice? Mindset, that's alright.
But I kept my thoughts to myself, afraid I might offend him. I didn't want to take the risk of angering him and then finding myself alone in this mess. The bathroom was on the first floor, while the rooms were on the second, so we had to pass through the entrance hall to get there. I had one foot on the stairs when I felt a hand cross my shoulder, firmly enough to make me and Carrie too come to a halt. Ilias took his
Bałem, że to
hand
będzie
back
że będzie scena z tego.
and greeted me with a slight nod. He was accompanied by a man that I didn't bother to look at, too busy wondering what I could have possibly done for the head guard to catch me in the middle of the hall. I awkwardly answered his nod with a little bow, and the man next to him let out a sneer. Ilias, however, was dignified enough to act like he didn't see or hear anything.
Excuse me, Mr. Ravier, I need you to give me a bit of information regarding
Sorry, Ilias, we really don't have time for that right now. You can talk to him later. Carrie then immediately grabbed me before anyone could object to anything, and Ilias silently watched us as we ran down the stairs, his eyes a colder shade than usual. The man with him I reacted in a much less stoical manner and spat out a swear that even I had never heard before. I was probably going to be late to my first class, and my roommate had just put up us at odds with a man who had armed and trained guards to fight at his order. My day was off to a really bad start. Ooh. When Carrie opened the bathroom door, I felt a rush of warmth envelop my body. It wasn't like the suffocating heat of a room had, but instead it was a soft and pleasant warmth that made me almost forget we were late. A pool large enough for 12 people dominated the room, and 3 wooden cabins were installed against the walls for those who required a bit of privacy. The cabins themselves were as big as my parents' bathroom and much better furnished. Each one had a large brass tub, a bucket for rinsing, as well as an intricately carved cabinet containing various supplies. I had, however, only a few seconds to admire the room and everything it had for its users. Carrie threw my uniform at me, roughly pushed me inside one of the cabins, and ran to the other one right next to mine while cursing the academy and its prison-like schedule. Once I had finished undressing, I reached for a bathcloth and began washing myself.
Harry, why didn't you wake up before the bell rang? You've been stood here for a while, you should be used to it.
By the way, patrz na tą twarz, patrz na to ciało.
A to się mi nie pasuje.
Fucking anime. Placing the blame on me, Rafe. If anyone was faulty, then it would be you, my friend.
Ci nie pasuje, bo ja nie rozumiem.
Dobra, czytaj.
Ja nie... Not disappointed in your voice.
Czytaj.
Me, I don't even know what time classes start. I was counting on you to be responsible.
I washed my face with soap as I spoke, shutting my eyes hard so they didn't end up bloodshot by the time I was done. The muffled rustling coming from Carrie's cabin told me he was already putting his clothes on. I was the one counting on you. You said you came from a farm, right? You guys had a habit of waking up early. I based my entire strategy on this.
I was half dead from exhaustion last night, and it took me a while to fall asleep because of your stupid stove. Probably won't have this problem in the future, but this morning you were the one who was supposed to wake me up, not the other way around.
Okay, fine, let's just say that was miscommunication. I heard noises that I couldn't quite identify from Carrie's cabin that was until I noticed a shadow looming over my head. Carrie had climbed on the furniture in his cabin so that he could be able to see me over the fence. How much longer until you're done? It shouldn't take an entire year for you to wash yourself.
Give me a break, I'm being as quick as possible.
No, it wouldn't take me an entire year to clean myself, but I just concluded a several weeks long trip and I needed to scrub my body a little longer than someone who got to shower every day. Even that meant skipping breakfast.
You really have to stare at me like that. If you don't want me to slow you down, you can go, I won't mind.
Actually, I really wanted him to wait for me, but I would have rather faced Mr. Valence alone than continue to clean myself while being stared at the same entire time. Same. Carrie chuckled but didn't leave his perch. Mr. Valence will be more merciful if we are both late, and staying with you gives me the most gift-wrap excuse I could ever dream of. Such as, but Mr. Valence, I'm not late because I wanted for the last minute to get up again. I'm late because I will help the new kid get ready. With that, there's absolutely no way he could get mad at me. He had used such a ridiculously high-pitched voice that he managed to make me smile. Aha, uciekł, dobra, rozumiem. Jak zwykle.
You at least wait for me at the front of the cabin. I am not comfortable with being stared at like that.
Oh, modest, aren't we? Fine, I'll leave. But will you allow me to point something out before I get down? The mischievous glint in his eyes should have been enough to warn me. Should have.
And what would that be?
Carrie remained silent for a few seconds before answering, his smile growing wider and wider. You're gonna need to get some sun when you get the chance, Rafe, because right now you're cold in the snow outside.
Ah, shut up.
I felt my cheeks burn almost instantly. Since I'd finished washing myself, I threw my soap-covered towel right at his face. He removed the towel from his face without leaving his perch and pointed at my cheeks that were tiny red. Actually, forget the sun. Blushing like a virgin does the job.
Get out!
Carry away with a burst of laughter, and then he waited for me to finish getting ready without further commentary. It wasn't as though he had any questionable comments, but rather that he was laughing too hard to be able to voice them. When I
Tego się nie spodziewałem.
Yeah, tak. When I got out of the cabin, I had put my uniform on and cooled off. He took a dive in the tub after for my cheeks to turn back to the usual color, but at least I wasn't blushing anymore. Carrie eyed me up and down, seemingly lost in thought. He circled around me, inspected me from every angle, like a breeder trying to evaluate how much his cow is worth. I was about to yell at him to make him stop when he finally said something. You look real classy in that. You've been better if you add a bit of a personal touch to it, but the standard uniform sits you well too. I bet the snob won't believe his eyes once he sees you. It's like you're a completely different person. I was too stunned from receiving a compliment from him that no sound made it out from my mouth. Conflicted, I just scratched my neck without daring to thank him, scared that he might see it as an opportunity to make fun of me again. I took it upon myself to change the conversation subject.
Personal touch, like on yours?
I had pointed my chin at the fallen of his uniform. Carrie followed my gaze and nodded. Yeah, like mine. You have to pay for it, but you can ask the school's tailor to customize your uniform if you want. You can change the colors or wear other clothes than the ones you were given, but you can add stuff to them like various streams, embroidery, or fur. He proudly pointed at his outfit as if to illustrate his point.
Off.
Dig. At that very moment, the bell that had woken us up a few minutes prior made itself heard a second time, which, according to what Carrie had told me this morning, meant the class was starting. Damn, we're gonna run! The classroom isn't that far from here. This time, Carrie didn't have to grab me by the wrist to get me to follow him. I was already sprinting out of the room before him.
It's cool, buddy.
I was about to run to the classroom Elias had shown me the day before when Carrie grabbed me by the collar to pull me toward him. He almost strangled me as he was dragging me ruthlessly over to the yard, but the other students from our class and our teacher were waiting. What the fuck? Renan had a smirk on his lips, far too happy to see us throwing a plate, while Hyder preferred focusing his attention on the cicadas that were pecking the ground. As for Mr. Valence, he had his arms crossed, giving up an icy glare. I swallowed nervously, eyes fixed on my shoes. We'd almost shown up on time, so I had hoped we could have avoided that kind of glare. However, Mr. Valence wouldn't be satisfied with us being almost on time. Either you were on time or you weren't. Seeing my composure crumble, Carrie came to my rescue. Excuse us, sir. We didn't have enough time to see the whole academy yesterday, so I had given a personal tour this morning. We didn't notice how quickly time had passed, but I assure you that it will not happen again. A personal tour. He had listened to Carrie's excuse without even looking at him. Instead, his eyes were fixed on me. Hearing the callous tone in his voice, I started to panic. At this point, I was convinced that he knew Carrie was lying. I'd rather be blamed for a mistake than be known as a liar, so I rushed to answer Carrie's stead.
It's not true, sir. We woke up only 15 minutes ago, but we got here as fast as we could, I swear.
If Mr. Valen's eyes has softened, then Carrie's, however, started gleaming. He kicked me calf in retaliating, and carefully avoiding making eye contact with the teacher, muttering on quick. Yeah, the two, which only I could hear. Glad to see that your forthrightness from yesterday wasn't merely a slip of the tongue, but a character trait, Mr. Rabia. I hope you will manage to have a good influence on Mr. Jedi, as he needs it quite badly. I will turn a blind eye to it today, but this will be the first and last time I do so. If you show up late again, you will be drawing in so much extra homework that you won't even have the time to dine properly. It won't happen again, we promise. In case it wasn't clean enough, I was talking to Mr. Rabia, and only to Mr. Rabia. In your case, we will talk about your punishment after the lecture is over. We have already wasted enough time as it is. My eyes were fixed on the cicadettes in the yard, but not for the same reason as Hyde. I was just trying to avoid Carrie's glare and exhausted face, who at that moment hated me much more than he hated Renan, which clearly said something according to what I'd seen of their relationship. Mr. Valens stepped aside and nodded toward my roommate to come closer. I had no idea what that meant, but Carrie seemed to get it. Throwing even more, he shoved his hand into his pockets and stepped forward after giving me one last murderous glare. My morning is far. I show up late to my class, offended the head guard of the academy as well as one of his subordinates, and the boy I shared a room with wanted me dead. I was seriously considering giving up the idea of becoming a respectable mage and going back to growing turnips instead. Like I was about to say before I was interrupted, we are going to spend the morning evaluating Mr. Rabi's abilities in order to assess whether the difficulty level of our courses can be increased or if there's any catching up that needs to be done. I would like to take this opportunity to give an assessment of the progress made by the students who have been attending my lectures since the beginning of the year, which means that the test will be the same as when you first arrived. The elementals will need to create a bird using the magic the largest possible that they can make, and with all of the characters a bird can have. He had emphasized the last point while staring directly at Carrie. Hearing what was expected of us, emotion raced through my mind. On the other hand, I was looking forward to seeing what the magic of the students I had not seen it yet was like, and on the other, I was dreading having to use mine in front of everyone. Mr. Vance gave a sign to Carrie to start the test. Carrie rolled up his sleeves and stretched out his hand while grumbling. You want your damn bird, then you're gonna get it. Expecting to see something that flies, I had to raise my head to the sky, eager to see the real use of magic for the very first time. However, the bird never came. In its place, a long and thick shape was gliding on the ground, trying as best as it could to slap small wings on its back. I had to strike my neck to see that it was a slug. We look so damn fine. We look like Dazai. But okay, look at the teacher, the face. Like, I'm not amused, but like, you could do better. Okay, it's like,
Yeah, you could.
The long-haired dude, like, the hell, again.
Shorty laughing so.
Yeah! Renan burst out laughing, arms wrapped around his belly. Hyde had tilted his head the same way as mine to be able to appreciate the carrier's walk, watching the thing as it painstakingly dragged itself on the ground with a certain fascination. I was equally mesmerized. Slug or not, Carrie's creation was majestic. If Mr. Valens had asked him to create a gastropod with his element, Carrie would have probably done the best out of all of us. Unfortunately for him, it wasn't the case, and our teacher heaved an exasperated sigh. The worst part was that he didn't even seem surprised. If you spent as much time studying as you spent wandering around, you would have had enough time to make significant progress. But I did. Look, its wings are much bigger than last time. Mr. Valens didn't even bother responding. It would have been difficult to say. Renan's boisterous laughter was so loud that we couldn't hear anything else. He managed to calm down after a few deep breaths and straighten up. wiping a tear from the corner of his eye. I saw his cheeks staining themselves red when he realized that all eyes were turned toward him, even the teachers. I've already told you this before, Mr. Leroy. Making fun of the failure of others is a form of contempt that has no place in a school like this one.
Sorry, Mr. Valentyne.
Carrie let out a little laugh. Big mistake. Mr. Valens turned around so sharply that his cape cut through the air, becoming a menacing crimson whirlwind. Similar to how making the same mistakes without learning anything from them is proof of appalling stupidity. Anukai has assured us that they send their brightest student in exchange for ours. That can only mean one of the two things. Either Anukai had indeed sent us their best man, in which case your country's magic is alarmingly horrendous, or rather, you're a mediocre student who's wasting his enormous potential. According to you, which of this explanation is correct?
The second one. Gary had too much pride to admit out loud that he was a bad student, but he couldn't ignore a question from his teacher either, so he spat out his answer in an evasive way, fist clenched at his side.
Mr. Leroy, if you'd like to take his place and demonstrate what an earnest and competent student is capable of. Regan promptly strode forward with firm steps while Carrie retreated to his spot next to us. When their eyes met, Renan raised his chin with an air of superiority and started rolling up his sleeves with a more than satisfied grin. Once at Mr. Valen's side, he removed the glove on his right hand and took a deep breath. As opposed to Carrie's demonstration, his was instantaneous. Little by little, small drops of water started gathering in the palm of his head, forming a ball that grew bigger and bigger. It's when it reached the size of a large apple that Renan could create his bird.
Oh.
Nice. Of course, Renan would be satisfied making a small chickadee like the ones found all over the yacht. No, instead he made a large, magnificent bird that resembled nothing I was familiar with. His work started flying above our heads, and every flap of his wings had large feather-shaped drops of water fell on. Nie mogę z ich twarzy. Teacher like, I approve. Ronan is like, I did a great job. We are like, oh my god, what's this bird?
You're so fucking amazing.
He's cute. The next one is like, I don't give a fuck, but I do. And the last one is like, I'm not surprised. I couldn't tell whether that was the result of immense attention to detail or if Renan was taunting us in a subtle enough way for our teacher not to notice, but still his performance was one of the most magnificent things I've ever had the chance to see. I don't know if it was Carrie's poor performance that had made Renan's look more impressive than it really was, but I had stars in my eyes. I couldn't look at anything else, and disappointment showed on my face when Renan decided to make the bird disappear. I felt a wave of panic. Co?
Wiesz, że pójdę coś zjeść?
Ty pójdziesz zjeść, ja będę kończyć, co na to.
A,
Znaczy, ja
gdzieś
nie...
to ile zostało?
Nie wiem właśnie, ja chcę przynajmniej skończyć. Znaczy, jak już będziesz iść, jak już mówisz, że dobranoc, to już wtedy kończę, nie? Ale chcę już trochę to pociągnąć. O Jezus Maria.
Daj
No.
mi 10 minut, w 10 minut zdążę.
Nic ci nie dam, nie będę czekać na ciebie, czytam dalej.
Weź, będę tu siedział z tobą do 22.
Nie wierzę ci. Poza tym masz streama,
Około
możesz
22.
obejrzeć to na streamie.
O weź, babciu.
Oglądaj na streamie, a nie. Dobra, bye.
Brr.
I felt a wave of panic even more overwhelming than the first filled my whole body at the moment the last watery feather vanished. I was starting to wonder if it would have been better had I gone first. Even Carrie's luck was much better than anything I could do. Mr. Valens was surely going to get mad, seeing my medical accomplishment, and will maybe even decide that I don't have a place in the academy after all. Perfect, Mr. Leroy. You are getting faster and while technically useless. The details on your bird's plumage were particularly pleasant.
I am glad to see that my lessons are of use to someone. Your turn, Mr. Rabbit. Please step forward. Huh? Already? I intensively turned to hide. Due to Carrie and Renan having gone before me, I thought hide would as well. That way, I could have gone a few more minutes before having to show everyone that I was the worst mage who'd ever walk on the face on this earth. Mr. Valence started smiling, having sensed my confusion. Creating a bird is an exercise meant for elementals, but Mr. Fisher isn't one. His test will be something else. I must have seemed so lost by his response that he decided to further elaborate. You do know the difference between elemental magic and usual magic, correct? Elemental magic can use wind, water, or fire depending on which element they control, and usual magic, they can do other things. A lot of things, actually. Czyli wróciłeś, co?
Jeszcze nie poszedłem, okej? Próbowałem włączyć Twitcha na telefonie przez cały czas.
Aha.
Wiesz, jakby ty tam szedł. Z daleko, okej? To jest... A, 4.
Okay. For example, I heard of...
Może więcej. Ile to jest?
For example, I heard of an unusual mage who was able to change another person's hair color by snapping their fingers just like that. They could turn it green, purple, or even red, just super ugly stuff. That's a very singular way of defining it, and somewhat incomplete. You are correct regarding elemental magic, but unusual magic are a little more complex. Every mage is born with elemental magic. Some of them, however, choose to sacrifice it for another power. Those who do so become unusual mages. Okay. Unusual mages have made the choice of sacrificing the elemental power in exchange for another by performing ritual. Inquire for more information on the latter. The magic that one receives after ritual is finished is random. It can be much more powerful than the former, but it is more often completely useless, even at times ridiculous. It's the reason why few mages dare to sacrifice the magic for another, better an elemental power than the unusual magic that everyone laughs at, or at worse, it could be useless, that it makes you sink into oblivion. However, it's a process only very few of us dare to go through. We are aware of what we sacrifice, but we have no idea what we are getting in return. The example you're referring to is a perfect illustration of that. That person had sacrificed an elemental power that would have opened them many doors for a talent with zero utility. What a huge waste. However, some have had better luck and had inherited a power that's more interesting than their power's previous one. This is the case for Mr. Fisher. Said Mr. Fisher had been listening to his explanation with bare minimum attention, preferring to play with his bags rather than disapprove anything. Like Mr. Valence had said, he was in the academy, it was because his power was definitely useful or even essential, so I tried to imagine what kind of magic he could be gifted with. Maybe he could create explosions or create vital things like food or drink. Maybe he could even see the future. While I was contemplating it, our teacher invited me to take the Renan's place next to him. I was so captivated by this unusual magic thing that I had forgotten about my area's stress, so I slowly stepped forward while still staring at Hyde. My thoughts faded the second I stood next to Mr. Valence. Panic rushed back to me like I'd gotten hit over the head with a sledgehammer, causing the pounding in my ears to get so loud that I couldn't hear what was going on around me anymore. My palms were soaking sweat, and I had an excruciating stomach ache that would have made me run to the latrine if my legs could move. I suddenly felt Mr. Valence's hand on my shoulder. He had a gracious smile that managed to ease the pounding in my ears, allowing me to hear what he was saying. I would just like to evaluate your abilities, Miss Rubber, and I do not have any particular expectations. Do your best, that's all I am asking of you, and it doesn't matter if your performance turns out to be a failure. The problem is, I've never tried to make
something. I don't even know how to do it. You can take the inspiration from the cicadates in the yard when making your own bird. Look at them and try to replicate their shape with your magic. It isn't very difficult. And if you still can't do it, close your eyes. Blocking one of your senses will help you focus. I took his advice like it would somehow save my life. Proceed without hesitation. I hoped to have an epiphany when I closed my eyes, but that didn't happen. I was alone with myself, and blocking my vision only allowed me to hear my heart beating in my chest. I took a deep breath, purposely imitating Renan, and I was able to create a gust of wind, a little stronger than usual, proof that closing my eyes worked at least a little bit. But no beard had taken shape from the tips of my fingers. I put my hand down at once, crestfallen. I was sure that if Renan hadn't been scolded earlier, when he had made fun of Carrie, he would have burst out laughing again upon seeing my performance. Mr. Vance tapped the tip of his chin a few times while staring at my hand. Fortunately for me, he was still smiling. Well, it looks like we have much more work on our hands than I originally thought. I'm sorry, I really did try my best. I'm sure that you did. I have something to ask before deciding which actions need to be taken to help you catch up. How long have you been practicing for? Practicing what? Your magic. When did you first begin using it? It's... A putrid stretch and a vial of horror came crashing back to me the very second I thought about that event. It was 3 months ago, not long before my father informed the academy. And during these 3 months, how many times did you use it? Not more than a dozen times. All of a sudden, an unprecedented expression appeared on Mr. Vanna's face. He was surprised, really surprised. A quick glance at my classmates allowed me to see that everyone had a similar expression on their eyes. Even Hyde's eyes were opened wider than usual. None of them would have looked any different if I had instead told them all of my most shameful family secrets, and I was almost wondering if that was something I'd done without realizing it. Not more? No, I had avoided using it as much as possible before I arrived to the capital. Weren't you any curious to see what your magic was capable of? Not really. My element isn't really an interesting one. Not an interesting one. Well, now I guess I've heard everything. White mages are highly sought after, Mr. Rabel. At a slave market, you would be the one all the wealthy were after. Some practitioners would exchange their magic without second thought to it, if it meant they would be able to control the same element as you. I heard Carrie grumble, "Not me," in a low voice, which was followed by a commanding "shh" from Renan. Of course, which, with only a dozen of times under your belt, it's difficult for you to realize this. All the mages at the school have at one point been on the same level as you. Is the reason why I'm talking about lateness and not anything else. Anyone with such little practice would have trouble creating anything. He gestures for me to return to my spot, and Hyde stepped forward before he was even asked to. Once they ran aside, I exhaled in relief, content to know this test was now a thing in the past. In the end, it had just been a small ordeal to overcome, and no one had gotten mad at how bad I was. Mr. Valent's speech had even managed to restore my self-confidence. Maybe I wasn't as hopeless as I thought. Once Hyde was next to him, Mr. Valence continued his assessment. Your turn, Mr. Fisher. Base, Constitution, Expansion. Hyde nodded, and I tried to understand what the teacher had just told him. I don't know if it was because a portion of my mind was busy deciphering those directives, or if it was due to some kind of optical illusion, but I needed to blink a few times to realize that Hyde had just used his magic. Unlike the elemental mage, he had acted silently. He hadn't needed to concentrate, not to move, which made the discovery of his power all the more impressive. Hyde could render himself invisible. What the fuck? He could guess the shape of his body only due to his clothes. It was as if the rest of him no longer existed. It even felt like I could pass my hand through him without any hindrance. Indeed, it was a much more interesting kind of magic than being able to change other people's hair color. The base is the same as usual, same for its consistency, and unless I'm mistaken, expansion is still not within your reach. That's really disappointing. I have to disagree with that. My disappearance is intentions, and my reappearance takes less and less each time. Certainly, and Mr. Jelly's wings were a little larger this time than the first time he was evaluated. Do not settle with such meager progress, Mr. Fisher. You will not be able to push the boundaries of your gift with that mindset. I won't pretend as though I were expecting a bit more from you. I was told that you study often, whether it be at the library or practicing in your spare time. If you dedicate so much of your time to your studies, then why isn't there more blatant progress? Mr. Valence, who had been very understanding towards me, had suddenly become uncompromising toward Hyde, and I had trouble understanding why. I didn't even know what kind of progress he was expecting from him. Hyde could make himself invisible. How could he possibly done better? Excuse me, sir. There must be something I'm misunderstanding here. Hyde is already at his maximum potential, isn't he? If his ability is to make himself invisible, I don't see how he could do better than that. I had finished my sentence in a very soft voice, already regretting asking it. I was almost expecting Mr. Valence to tell me to let the adults talk, like my uncle used to do when I tried to take part in his conversations. My remark had, however, amused Hyde, who replied in our teacher's stead. I don't know if you noticed, but because of my clothes, I can still be seen when I'm turning myself invisible. I can also be touched, which isn't very convenient when I want to get around without being noticed. It only takes one collision to blow my cover. And please know that magic is of any kind of evolve, Mr. Rapper, even then unusual variants. He could extend his powers to his clothes, become incorporeal, and turn various objects invisible even from a distance. The only limits to her magic are those of the imagination and willpower of its user. Any other questions regarding the subject? No, sir. My interruption has been the final one of the lecture. After answering my question, Mr. Valence asked us to keep practicing while he took notes. The more hours that passed, the more I longed to hear the sound of another bell. Unfortunately, it was not how it worked in the school.
Ukochany wnuczek przybył.
Cześć! Gardło mnie boli. Witam.
Dobry.
Mieliśmy lekcję.
Jaką lekcję?
Widzieliśmy ptaszka, nie? Widzieliśmy ptaszka
No tak.
tamtego,
Ja nie wyszedł, wiem.
ale Hyde stał się invisible.
I know, I saw it on stream, and I have a question.
Yeah.
Why am I blushing? Why Lamema is blushing on the stream?
Yes? It's healthy blush. Healthy. Understandable?
Understand a single word you're saying, but okay.
Unfortunately, it was not how it worked in the school. A bell announced beginning of the class, but teachers were the only ones who could decide when class ended, and now seemed ready to keep us in class for as long as possible. Brzmi jak każda szkoła.
No.
I had seen other students leave their classrooms a good 30 minutes before Mr. Valence eventually decided to leave us alone. After I stopped sending gusts of wind in every direction, I felt an intensely pleasant feeling of fatigue numb my muscles, as though I had been running non-stop for hours. I let myself drop to the floor with a constant sigh. I wiped a drop of sweat off my chin as I tilted my head off toward Carrie, who was gulping down a flask of water like he'd been dehydrated for days.
Never thought using magic would be so exhausting.
Okej, przeczytaj to jeszcze raz, proszę, poprawnie.
Co?
Przeczytaj to jeszcze raz poprawnie.
I never thought using magic would be so exhausting.
Okej, źle czytasz trzecie słowo i ostatnie.
I never thought using magic would be so exhausting.
Po pierwsze, trzecie słowo to nie jest uczenie, więc to nie jest tot, to jest fot przez F. Ostatnie to nie jest exhausting, to jest exhausting.
Brzmisz jak Hermiona z Harry'ego.
O nie!
Jak Hermiona z Harry'ego.
Tylko nie ginger.
To nie jest Leviosa.
Uczę cię angielskiego, słuchaj mówić. Przeczytaj, no.
Never thought using magic would be so exhausting.
Widzisz lepiej.
Jej.
Progres jest dumna jestem i tak dalej. Well, if you use it only a dozen times in your life, it's no wonder you're only realizing this just now. That's why you've got physical education classes. It's so that our bodies can keep up with our intensive use of magic. And it's so that we don't end up like him over there. Carrie pointed at the blonde mass spread on the floor. His breath came out in initial coarse gasps.
Okay, Renan? Are you going to survive?
Co ty?
Mind your own business.
Don't worry about him, Rafe. I know how to get him back on his feet. Carrie raised his flask of water above Renan's head and poured it out over him.
Oh,
Probably used to this kind of attention, he rolled over to the edge of the attack and ended up right next to me. His sudden movement raised a thick cloud of dust that triggered an unyielding coffin fit next within me. However, it managed to mask Ronan's swearing, thus preventing him from being scolded by Mr. Vance. Our teacher had watched the scene unfold without saying a word. His right eyebrow was raised so high that it had disappeared beneath his bangs. I saw write down a few notes in his notebook before ripping out the page and handing it to Carrie. You had managed to escape with only an additional hours of extra practice courses. Your childish joke just resulted in 19 more. Carrie calmly took the piece of paper and shoved it in his pocket, all without losing his smile. I have zero regrets. At this point, he surpassed courage and went straight into recklessness. I was certain that if Carrie hadn't put the piece of paper in his pocket, Mr. Valence would have grabbed it out of his hand and added an additional 40 more hours. At least that's what his glass suggests. Mr. Rubber, come closer, please.
yes, sir.
I got up within a second, lifting another cloud of dust in my haste. Mr. Valence turned a few pages in his notebook until he reached the one he was looking for. Your physique and endurance are quite acceptable for a first-year student. You even have a sore advantages over someone of your classmates. A groan of protest came from Renan's direction. However, that's the only area in which you are on par with everyone else, and thus you will need to bridge the gaps in your knowledge as fast as possible if you want the Academy's lessons to do you any good. I think mutually exchanging knowledge is the best method for you to express in an efficient manner. Therefore, if your classmates are willing to help you study over the course of these next few weeks or months, you'll be able to catch up quickly. What do you say, gentlemen? Who would like to volunteer? He had turned to face the three boys and smiled brightly at them. None of them uttered a single word, but their eyes conveyed their true thoughts. No, they weren't very fond of the idea of spending their free time helping the new kid become a better mage. However, no one dared to voice their thoughts. Anyway, Mr. Valence wasn't really asking for their opinion. His question was asked purely out of
courteously and emphasized that they would be delighted to help me study, whether or not they actually wanted to. However, their fate wasn't sealed just yet. They still had a chance to be left alone if one of them decided to volunteer, but of course, none of the three were ready to sacrifice themselves to save the other two. All of the hesitation caused Mr. Valent's smile to widen. Alright, if no one's going to volunteer, I will let you choose your study aid yourself, Mr. Rabier. I strongly advise you to pick Mr. Leroy. His earnestness is reliable, and his weaknesses are your strengths. You would learn a lot from each other. I heard a squeak coming from his direction.
You better choose my roommate, right?
And it was the moment I had to choose whom I would spend the majority of my time with. I didn't know it at the time, but the seemingly insignificant decision would be the one to drastically alter the course of my life, to the point where I still wonder sometimes that would have happened, but I decided to study with another one of my classmates. Would the event still have turned out this way? Would I have had to make such difficult decisions if I hadn't picked him? Maybe he have had to experience the same hardships if I hadn't been in his way. And above all, would he have fallen in love with me? Study with her, study with me. Study with Carrie.
Dobra, zacznijmy od tego, że na stówę nie wybieramy tego głupiego.
Karego?
Więc bierzemy albo głupiego. Dlatego wybieramy albo kurdupla, albo tego cichego.
Mam kurde prawo cichego. Boże, no wiem, co mówię.
To jest bardzo ciężki wybór, ponieważ nie mogę się zdecydować, więc zostawię tobie wybór.
Chcesz więcej gadać? To jest po prostu...
Powiedziałem, że stawiam tobie wybór, okej?
On mnie wkurza. Aha!
Oszukane. Jest więcej dema, czy nie ma? Brałaś najnowsze.
Nie, to nie jest najnowsze.
Bierz najnowsze, ty się dobrze czujesz. You have to know what happened after.
Access the Kickstarter. What the heck is that? Oh, that's a link. What the fuck is this?
I don't see.
You better not see. You better not see.
I don't see.
Better not.
Why?
Better not. For your sake, please.
Let me see, let me see. Let me see.
Uuu, to nie jest jedyna. Uuu, jest nauczyciel. Yes. Secondary characters? Jeszcze nie widziałam.
Hey,
Oh my god.
why are you doing this to me?
Oh my god. Oh, there's a girl. There's a girl. Two girls. One of them looks like Luca. What the heck? This game, you know, credits.
Nie słyszałem, bo ten, bo mi
Jednego się wygląda jak Luka. Z Valentyne.
Ho?
Yeah, ale on jest...
Nie pokaż.
Ale on jest postacią drugorzędną.
O.
Okay, you can support them, but like, I don't think we can download. Yeah. Just apply trailer. Yeah, trailer to jest wszystko, co przeszliśmy w demo, także... Okay.
Ho.
Dobra. Extras, co to jest?
Chodzimy resztę streszek?
Gallery. Carry. Raiden. Hide. Ilias. Fenny. Prolog. Backgrounds. What is? Okay. Bonus. Nie ma. Music room. Academy. Select bedroom. Kapitał. Moje uszy, oła. Danger. Andec. Nie, to brzmi jak man. Arkham. Brzmi jak Modern Talking. Okej. Over... Dobra, chuj. Za głośno. Dobra. Koniec gry. Pięknie.
Ładnie.
Koniec streama. Puf.